Well, hello, dears. This is Our True History, coming to you live from Mars. I thought I'd do another video today because yesterday, unfortunately, my phone died. So the battery died. So I thought I'd do another one today because there was a hell of a lot of people and a hell of a lot of questions I didn't get to. So if you're one of those people, I'm sorry. And so just started this live. Thank you for those that's joining. Chronoxys wrote, "What an unexpected live." Yeah, because it died on me yesterday. I wasn't. Sometimes I don't look at the phone. I just sort of close my eyes and talk like that Bashar guy, which is why I think I could have done what he done. But all hats off to him for faking it and making people believe. Spanish Cockney's back, and I know who Spanish Cockney is now. It's someone in an expat, basically. I learned stuff doing this. Alex just wrote, hi mate, hi Alex. Quinoxes wrote, you was on yesterday. Are you starting to do them a bit more frequently? Well, I had some time yesterday because Christmas and everything. So I thought I'd sneak in one yesterday, and it was going really well. Lots of people, lots of good questions, and unfortunately, the Samsung phone. I'm on the other phone today, the one that doesn't overheat as much. So bloody Samsung. Shadow Warriors wrote, "How you God?" You remember? We identify as gods, don't we? I'm fine, thank you. Yes, not too bad. Still doing my research every single day. And Shadow Warriors wrote, "What's ghost orbs?" So ghost orbs, right? So this is taken from me talking to clairvoyants, mediums, and spiritualists a lot. I even paid them just to answer questions instead of actually having readings myself. And taken from the Emerald Tablets of Thoth because I still can't believe that the tablets were written telling us stuff that we're only just finding out about in regards to spirits and reincarnations, etc. So someone thousands of years ago knew it. So it was either just a hell of a good guess or they actually wrote it down. So basically, the way it all comes together is when the universe was created from a thought. Now, that's by the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. Now, whether or not you want to believe that, that's up to you. I don't know how it started, but that's what it says. And at that point, then became time, space, and at the same time, these entities were created. Now, if you read the Emerald Tablets of Thoth correctly, the entities were created. This is obviously billions of years ago. Then, at some point, they ended up either manifesting or some way becoming physical. And they went through a period of being physical, and then they ascended again back to a sort of an orb state. So you've got nine in total that's in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. Two of which are the main two. Me and you won't ever get to see them. But the seven is what the little orbs, so those ones are basketball size, the seven. The smaller ones are tennis ball size, the ones that we see floating around a lot more than the larger size ones. They go in front of that council of seven and get told what job or get asked to join with a particular person. So, for example, an entity will go in front of the seven, and the seven. Now, each one of those seven's got a different job, as per the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, and hypno-regression people have said that they go in front of these people or these entities. So anyway, each one of them deals with something different. I've covered it, but you can go and read the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. I've covered it in my Patreon videos. So this entity will get a choice and say, do you want to go with Joe Bloggs? Yes, he's going to be, a billionaire. He's going to, set up a depopulation program. He's going to wear glasses. He's going to set up computer software, and he's going to wipe half the planet out. Do you want Do you want to join with that person? Yep, no problem. Because they don't know right and wrong. There is no right or wrong to them. So they join with the pineal gland. Now, if they didn't join with the pineal gland, then technically they're not a ghost. They're just, at this point, their own entity. They join with the pineal gland in your mother's womb, as it says so in the Islam tradition, the Quran. And when you die, it's like a hard drive, joins with you. And when you die, you're in charge of that for a period of time until it crosses over to the next plane of existence. We know that because when you talk to clairvoyants, sometimes they can't get in touch with the person you're after, and another spirit comes through and says they've crossed over, which means they've crossed over again. So obviously when you die you cross over, but when you're dead you cross over again, and no medium can actually contact them once they've crossed over. The only way we know about what happens after that, about them coming back round, is by hypno regression and past life things. So basically at that point, when you're still in control of the orb that joined with you, that's what a ghost orb is. It's your personality, everything. It's just like a hard drive connected to you. But in that orb, you've got files or personalities of people that orb had been with before, not you. You don't have, because if you had your own orb or your own your own soul, then how do you reincarnate into someone else? Because that means that person doesn't have its own soul, which case it does have, and then there's two of you joined in that person. And if you do that thousands of millions of times for different people, then each person would have a million souls inside them, which doesn't, according to clairvoyance, medium, spiritualists, don't happen. You only have one. So hopefully that sort of answers that. Sorry, there's a hell of a lot of questions suddenly come in, so I'm going to scroll down. Alex, is there anything on... I don't even know how to pronounce that, so no, I don't know that. And if it is a medical thing, I have to be careful, because I did get told off by YouTube the other day. They sent me a warning saying that one of my live chats had medical information on it, which really was just me saying, don't do this and don't do that, but... So I have to be careful. Quinoxes wrote, are X points portals in space or on Earth? Really good question. Really good question. So NASA tells us that the X points are in space, which are just basically portals. They actually show us where they are, and people have filmed things coming in and out and whatever else. Now, I personally believe they're also on Earth. But they're not going to say that, because certain places, from what I understand, so for example, there was a building in the States, I've mentioned this before, it's a Black Pyramid now. They built the Black Pyramid over a portal, and that portal goes from somewhere in America to somewhere else in America. So they bought the land, the military bought the land off of someone and built this Black Pyramid, which is really weird. Don't ask me where it is, you can go and Google it. But so I do think there is sort of points that you can go here on Earth as well as up in space. Cherries wrote, I hope I don't get muted today. Yes, I'm not sure what happened. It's not me, because as you know, I'm so far behind I wouldn't know what was going on. But yeah, I think there was an overzealous moderator. I'm so sorry, Sherry. Yuga has wrote, what's up with... I won't read that out because I'll get told off for medical information. It starts with ADREN. All I can say is thank you, Clark, my little boys. Just put that there. Move the phone. Sorry, my boys just bought me a milkshake, only because he wants his own, so he makes his own, and then... thank you, Clark.
You're welcome.
Goodbye. All I can say from my own research is everything the government's doing isn't for our own benefit. and when I say government, I'm really on about the people behind it, the people that set up depopulation foundations back in '98, and then tell us these years. In fact, there's another video of this same particular guy saying there's going to be another pandemic in 2025. The same guy that makes the money on the pandemic, the same guy that set up a depopulation that's why I will probably get told off by YouTube again. So it's not whatever they're up to is not for our benefit. Trust me. Elaine's wrote, evening. You're on a live. I'll stop watching Blown Away then. Oh no, Elaine. Oh, bless you. How's your chickens and horses? I've been watching. I feel like I know your whole farm now. Until I saw you open the oven the other day, and you was roasting some things, and I thought, I wonder if those were the chickens that I started to grow to love. So I hope not. You can't keep filming these chickens, letting me fall in love with them, and then yeah. Thank you, I Trucker Bandit, for the rose. Illuminati's wrote, hello everyone. I'm sure they're all saying hello back. Rick Martins wrote, do you think we will see the Anunnaki come to Earth? No. I mean, look at it from this point of view. They were here. They could have quite easily, had full control over us at any point, and they did, obviously. And then they don't anymore. But that's because they lost half their lifespan here on Earth compared to on their home planet. So that's one reason. Two is the tablets say that after the flood, when King Anu came down and they thought that Gaozu, which was an emissary of the creator of everything, when they believed that he was there, they then said, let man inherit Earth. So they thought that the creator of everything wanted the Anunnaki to give us the Earth. So they're not going to come and take it back unless they find out that there really is no creator of everything. I'm not saying there is or isn't. I have no idea. But that's what I'm just saying. Hypothetically, if they found out that the creator of everything isn't real or doesn't want us to have Earth, then they'd probably come back in that shape and form, to attack us. But from a whistleblower that I heard a while ago, he was in a room with an Anunnaki, which makes sense, to deal with our military, because obviously we can now, with the back engineered technology we've got, we can actually get to their system, their planet, and we know that from the guy that was in charge of Lockheed Skunk Works, probably 20, 30 years ago. He was in a meeting, a conference thing, and he left and he was talking to someone, and basically he turned around and said, I think the words were, we have the technology to get ET home, meaning that obviously ET was big back then, meaning that they can now traverse the stars. So it would be stupid of the Anunnaki not to have kept tabs on us. But there's no benefit in them coming down having a cup of tea or anything. I mean, if you've ever looked at the videos of Robert Wadlow, I think the varying degrees of what his height was, but sort of 7 to 8 foot or 8 foot plus, depending on who you read. But they're looking at the videos of him, 8 foot, and the Anunnaki were 8 to 12 foot tall. And this Robert Wadlow basically dwarfs people, obviously. So we would see an Anunnaki if they was walking around, for sure. So I don't think they're going to do that. Rick Martin has wrote, is there really a Space Force? Yes. Yeah. The best person to listen to on that, forget Corey Good, is Gary McKinnon, who hacked into NASA, as well as a few other places. And he got to see the space fleet's names of the ships, personnel, etc., etc. That's why they went after him. Lucky he, I'm surprised they didn't. They tried to extradite him to the US because he was from UK, but somehow or other they ended up, because I think it probably blew up too big, and everyone was talking about it, and they probably ended up thought, well, it's better just to let it drop than it is to take him to court and everything else. So that's why I believe there is, let alone obviously other things I've heard, but he was an independent person that come out and said he'd seen it. And the government, you could say, well, he hacked and therefore that's why they was going after him. But if he's coming out with stuff that he said he saw, there's no reason for him to lie, because he would be if he was lying, he would be causing himself even more problems if he got extradited by saying I saw a list of Space Fleet and stuff. because all they could do is the military could turn around to the court and say yes, he did see that, even if he didn't, because he's making it up, to lock him up even longer. So yeah, I think there definitely is a space fleet. I mean, I've seen a video back in 2004 on YouTube when it first started of a briefing. I know I've mentioned this before, but of a briefing between someone high up with slideshows and loads of army personnel in front. And since then, I couldn't find the video again. I watched it about 3 times back then, but I didn't know that I should really download stuff and keep it. But since then, I have actually saved a video footage on TikToks of someone else showing the same photographs, but this time not in a slideshow, showing photographs and saying the same thing. And now, because I remember the first time I seen it, I now believe that that's definitely genuine. So yeah. Doug the Bear wrote, can track or scent locked hounds able to track down a Bigfoot? Yes, they could. Wouldn't advise it. Bigfoots absolutely reek. Every single person that's ever come within 20 yards of a Bigfoot says they stink, and that's understandable because obviously they're big shaggy creatures that walk through water and mud and everything else, and they haven't got head and shoulders to use or anything like that. So it would make sense, if you don't bath a dog for a while, and then you can realise how bad a dog can smell. So yes, they could hunt a Bigfoot. The problem with that is if they were off the lead and the Bigfoot caught them, they would twist the dog's neck and break it, and that's happened to hunting dogs as well as people's pets that's chased after Bigfoots. So whoever's going out looking for them hopefully would know that and not let their dog off the lead. But yes, they could track them down. Now the Bigfoots do cross water, so whether or not that would stop. They wade through the water, so whether or not that would stop the dogs, I don't know. I'm not an expert on tracking. Rick Martin wrote, can we go with them? I'm guessing that's to do with the Anunnaki. Probably not. We're inferior to them. Quinoxes wrote, I keep seeing these sorts of shooting stars flying past at night, but they're too close to be stars. Interesting. Do they have a tail? Because UFOs don't seem to, everything I've ever heard of UFOs, they don't seem to have a tail like a meteorite or a comet, or an asteroid or anything that could have a tail with it. So I'd be interested to know if it had a tail. Quinoxes wrote, could they be orbs floating across, going across the sky in a streak? They could be. Now the ones in the sky, because I mentioned earlier that you got the tennis ball size, then you got the basketball size. There are ones that people have seen and even videoed in formation, but they are bigger than a car. They can go any size from a car upwards. What they are, I have no idea. That's one thing I still don't have a clue on. Whether they're sentient, whether they're droids, I just don't know. So it could be, but again, they don't seem to leave a trail. So so I don't know if you've seen a trail with it. Cherries wrote, Anunnaki, you say stay here for 30 days and decide if you want to do it again or move on. Anunnaki say you stay here for 30 days and decide if you want to do it again or move on. You mean as a spirit, as an orb? I've not heard that from the Anunnaki. I'd be interested to know where that's come from, if that's the case, if I'm reading what you're saying right. I didn't know we have a choice. I didn't know it was like 30 days and you can bug out. I've never heard that, not from mediums, clairvoyance or anything, so I'd be really interested to know where that comes from. Susie has said hello. Hi Susie, thank you for joining. Rick Martins wrote, this is live by the way if anyone's listening, it's just I read out every single question, so probably the only TikToker that does that. Rick Martins wrote, "Can we go with the Anunnaki? They probably wouldn't want us. They did marry us. Yeah. I mean, man and female, they did marry in the end. We know that because Gilgamesh's mum was Anunnaki and the little human was human. But yeah, even if we went with them on their planet, our life would be very quick. And we can't eat their food because we know that because I've actually read the tablets out on my Patreon page. But you can go find the tablets of Oxford University. But where Adapa was warned not to eat their food because, well, basically it was poison to him, which is where we get, I believe, where we get the "do not eat the food" from Eden. You know, this or Eden, the story of. Now, if you actually read the original tablets, it wasn't. Eve wasn't there, so I would go with that. That's my take on it. I think I'm the only person that's come up with that conclusion. But we've got the tablets where Enki, God, is telling Adapa, Adam, "Hey, don't eat the food. If you do, you'll be in trouble." And literally, we've got the tablets for that. We haven't got any other tablet that says, "Hey, here's a tree. Have an apple, but don't have an apple. If a snake comes along," we haven't got any tablets that says anything like that. But we have got tablets that say, "Don't eat the food on Nibiru." Spanish Cockneys wrote, "What's your thoughts on the Uawuma, which is the Hawaiian name for a spacecraft?" I think it's a spacecraft. I mean, it did slow down and it did turn, and it's in the same shape as the one that's on the moon, the one that's been there for however many millions of years or whatever. So so it's basically made out of rock, and what they do is they hollow it out, and only really have one entrance into a craft, which is a brilliant way of doing it. Instead of us, we'll sit there with nuts and bolts and all this kind of stuff. It's so much easier just to hollow out if you've got the technology, hollow out a big lump of rock really and use that. But I mean, I have heard, whether or not this is true, I heard it on Coast to Coast, that the Uawuma, when that was coming round, the Americans military went up, boarded it, went through it and found it totally ransacked because it had been travelling through the solar systems for however long. Now, whether or not that's true, it would make sense. If I was military, and I had the technology to go up there and board it, absolutely, I would do that. So, yeah, I do think it's real. I think it was just another one of those crafts that people had left or died on it or whatever happened to it. And over time, other aliens had gone in there and salvaged parts from it, which would make real sense to me. User 86 has wrote, "Bigfoot is real and he has a girlfriend named Barella." Logically, there's more than one Bigfoot, so have they all got girlfriends named Barella? So yeah, sorry, that's what my brain. It's probably a joke, but I don't know who Barella is. Sorry. Illuminati's thoughts on this planet being a skate planet, consistently recycling souls, reincarnation after reincarnation. Well, it does, and it's from people like Dolores Cannon and other mediums and clairvoyants, etc. It's one of the earlier places that souls go to, probably because of our density or something, or our frequencies, or whatever reason. They seem to, years ago I heard it, the Earth is a training ground. Take that as you will. If that's true, that would make sense that, the souls keep coming round and round until they get whatever it is that they need to learn here, and then they'll bugger off onto another planet with another. And that makes sense because when you realise by the Virginia University studies, where they've got 1,200 verified, absolutely categorically undeniable verified cases of reincarnation, and some of these things are only, excuse me, 10 years apart from someone dying to the next person. So certainly, yes, basically, I would say. Oh, Slave. Sorry, you wrote Slave Planet. No, I wouldn't say Slave Planet. No, I wouldn't say a slave planet. I would just say a training ground. REM or Remorph has wrote Hello Father. Hi, Remorph. I saw your comments, etc. Hopefully you do go and watch my YouTube videos. They're the same on TikTok, but it's easier to watch because I do them in sets of 50. Rick Martins wrote, "Can we leave with the Anunnaki?" No. There's no way they would want us, really. We still can't figure out, I mean, in terms of intelligence, we can't figure out how they moved to blocks for the pyramids. So I can't see them wanting to have us hanging around that much. Cherries wrote Stargate in Kent and one in California. It's possible. It's possible. I mean, I have heard things, but yeah, basically it's possible. Susie's wrote, mirrors are portals into the afterlife. Well, there was an old saying, good God, I remember this when I was a kid, that if at midnight, if you set a candle, a light, and you looked in the mirror and it's dark, you will see a spirit in the smoke in the mirror of the candle. Now, midnight, my first thought was the same as the Gremlins. Hang on a minute. What happens if it's, the clocks are wrong, or, daylight saving time and all that kind of stuff? But really what it was trying to say, the thing was, at the darkest point, because that's obviously when spirits don't have as many problems, or the light energy beings don't have many problems with the frequency of the sun, which is why they come out at night, and it's easier for them to move things and manifest and bump into things. So I wouldn't say mirrors, well, I mean, unless you know something different to me, but yeah, so I'm not sure, because you say it's a portal to the afterlife. The only way it would, sorry, this is how my brain works, forgive me. In order for it to be a portal, someone would have had to have gone through it and then back to be able to say that it's a portal. And yeah, so yeah, I'd struggle with that. I'm sorry. P grade is right. I think contact is very close. Oh, we've been dealing with things since the 50s. So in terms of disclosure, they're not going to do it. I know it makes, every year you think, oh, they've let this slip, they've let that slip, but we're not, us people are not going to find out about them. There's no way they would allow that to happen, because the second you find out that they've been lying to us, what else have they been lying to? What about the chemtrails? What about the injections? What about, just, I mean, and HARP and the weather control, and yeah, they're not going to do it. JYEV has wrote, "Are we in a higher dimension?" No, from everything that everyone's ever said, we're in one of the lower density dimensions. So if there is other dimensions, then we are, in terms of our frequency, we're in one of the lower ones. James has wrote to Shady, 140. Sorry, there has been contact. Remember, all the kids in Africa. Has to be more than just that. Yeah. I mean, you could. Yeah, I mean, you could argue that I think it was Zimbabwe, wasn't it? Incident where a UFO landed and school kids saw, I think, 2 greys come out and telepathically communicate with a couple of the people, and then I don't think there was any teachers. I think the teachers were in the smaller playground at the time, but yeah, I mean, technically that was, and they got telepathically told to look after the planet, which is interesting. which leads me to believe that they were probably Zetas as opposed to the Greys, the Orion Greys, which are the robot type ones. Because the Zetas are the good ones, really, out of the two. Excuse me, just yawning. Blondies wrote Tiki Toki China. I'm guessing that's to do with the Americans trying to shut down TikTok because they can't control it because it's Chinese, maybe. Scrolling down, iTruckers wrote, "Evening, everyone. Hi, iTrucker." I do love that name. I can't help but think someone's listening to me in a truck. That's so cool. I know sometimes you're not, but it's just because I listen to, Coast to Coast and that as I'm driving. Elaine's wrote to Yuga. They have stopped taking high now, so had to start the old Nick worship. Oh, sorry, not high. HGI. I was HDH. I don't know. Brain's gone on that one. Blondies wrote Amazon and Congo, huge reptilian underground bases. Um, I mean, there could be bases there. This is just my opinion. Obviously, if you know more than me, that's great. But I know there's the stories of the indigenous aliens, or indigenous reptilians, but I can't help but think if Linda Moulton Howe is telling the truth that that the three alien races don't like each other, Draco, Greys, and Palladians. For the Dracos, and if there is a federation for them, Galactic Federation of aliens, so to allow, for example, the Dracos to be here on Earth with bases, unless it's not the Dracos, in which case it could be another race, but I don't know. You might be right. I'm not 100% sure on that. Elaine's wrote, "No, not chickens. It was my favourite mutton." Okay, good. Because if I count how many horses you've got and one's missing, Elaine, I'll be round there. I know where it went. Nessie's wrote, "Check out my friend's podcast, the Confessionals podcast with Tony Merkel." Love to know what this person does. The Confessionals. If you let me know, and I'll try and remember to look that person up. Leafy has wrote Trump. I'm not sure if that's a question or something. Steph has wrote Gary who. So his name's Gary McKinnon. McKinnon, I think it is. And Gary McKinnon. Hack. Just type in Gary as best spelling as you can. Gary McKinnon hack, and you'll find videos on him. Where the best place to go is richplanet.net. That's RICH planet, all one word. Richplanet.net, and he did an hour and a half interview with Gary McKinnon, and because Rich Planet is interested, that's what he does in everything that I'm talking about as well. He wasn't pulling any punches when he was asking these questions, unlike other stupid bloody reporters and stuff. So if you're going to watch Gary McKinnon talk anywhere, highly intelligent guy, even though he supposedly has Asperger's, really intelligent guy, very articulate, etc. That would be the place to go and watch him talk about his hacking days. Susie's wrote, "I can constantly record demonic verbal abuse for years. Believe me, Jesus is real." So when you say demonic, this is where people that know me are going to say, "Oh no, he's on demons again." So when you say demonic, you're guessing it's demonic. In other words, evil, because technically there's no such thing as a demon, because your demon and my demon won't be anything like each other. Same as a monster, same as a creature. They're just definitions of things. But if you are hearing verbal abuse, sorry, someone's trying to join, but it's a kid's face, so I probably best not let a kid, sorry, just in case. Um, and then you wrote, "Believe me, Jesus is real." So has Jesus stopped these verbal abuse? I'm just trying to work out the connection there between the voices and then Jesus. Be interested to know. Leafy's wrote, "Why does Space Force wear jungle camo?" I got a feeling if they do, I got a feeling those are the ones that are now the new Space Force that Trump agreed to, as opposed to the real Space Force, which has been going for a lot longer and are up in space. So I think it would probably be an exercise in, you know, in basically PR really. Spanish Cockneys wrote, "What's your thoughts on the Uwuma?" I did read that. Church wrote "Head and Shoulders" for the Bigfoot joke. Thank you. Users wrote, "Will the Anunnaki come to breed with our women?" It's a fair question because they already have. It is a fair question, and the reason why I say it's a fair question because they did stay here and have kids, and we know that because the ones with Rh negative are Anunnaki's bloodline, so we know that they definitely did, in my opinion. So would they come back and steal some women again like they did before with the Ajiji, the sons of God unto the daughter? It's possible. I mean, if they're running out of women up there and they find our women more attractive, which is interesting because Aphrodite, Ishtar, was supposed to be one of the most attractive Anunnaki there was, certainly here on Earth. And I looked at the pictures of her, the carvings, many carvings of she's got different names throughout history. And I've looked at all the pictures because I was trying to work out, when I say pictures, carvings, statues, I was trying to work out, was she prettier than, for example, Gal Gadot, or I'm just picking a name out the top of my head there. And from the statues and carvings, I wouldn't say she was that pretty. But that's just, obviously that's just my take on a statue. But so yes, they probably would want to come down and start stealing some of our Wonder Women. Quinoxis wrote, "Can you talk a bit on the Yellow Book?" So I'm not an expert on the Yellow Book, but basically, there's people out that will probably be able to give you more information. But basically, it is a book that was given to us by the people of Serpo, which, when I say people, the Greys, which were the Zeta Reticuli, as a gift when they came to do an exchange program, which ended up being called Project Serpo, which Steven Spielberg then did a movie called Close Encounters of the Third Kind with the exchange program. Now, the gift of the Yellow Book was a holographic type book that you would open, and now, supposedly, according to the main researcher, he said that it would show all our history. Now, obviously that means either they've got a time machine and went back and sort of took holographic snaps of our history, or the book itself can create a portal that gives us an insight into a holographic thing. I don't know how it works, but that's apparently what it was as a gift. And of course, you can guarantee that the military would have been trying to dissect that as soon as they got it. So yeah, that's really all I know of it. There's stories out there of other things that it does, but that's probably as close as I would want to go without going in further in depth. But yeah, it was a gift that we was given, which was nice of them. That was the Zetas. P. Grady's wrote, "We deserve to know the truth." I couldn't agree more. We're not gonna, because of greed and power. from our so-called governments and elites and everything. Grateful Mary has wrote, I read that. I'm not sure what I was talking about at that point. This is live. Little MTN has wrote, have you heard about the theory that the future humans came back in time to help us around Atlantis? I've heard so many of those type of theories, but there's no evidence of that. It's just, someone picking the story. I mean, I actually thought the Greys at one point were us from the future, until you start doing more and more research and realizing no, the actual Zetas were from another planet, and they ended up having to go to the Zeta Reticuli star system, and then they set up a planet. They set up the home there, so they weren't from Earth. But I thought they was. I was trying to assume that if we kept growing fingers, would we have 6 fingers like them? Over a period of time, but it's not. Now, it's not to say time travel is not possible, but talking about the Atlantis, obviously, the Atlantis was approximately 8 to 10,000 years ago, and I've concluded where it is. It makes so much more sense than everywhere else. But whatever happens, the Anunnaki were the only ones here at that point that we're aware of. So, Thoth was on Atlantis, which was Ningazida, who built the pyramids, and he didn't mention in his tablets about us from the future coming back to help him, and didn't quite help him because obviously the city sunk anyway. So, but no, there's a lot of people come out with some ideas, and I try and go by as close as I can to logic and fact, but that doesn't work for me anymore, I'm afraid. User 38 is right. I was abducted by aliens once. Terrible ordeal. Here we go. I was put under extreme experiments. I'm okay now. I won't say the word, but you can probably guess. Is this true? I know people, say they've been probed, etc. But and why would it be a terrible ordeal? Just joking. Cherries wrote, after you die, your spirit stays here for around 30 days, and you decide if you want to reincarnate or move on. Oh, right, okay, sorry, that's what you was talking about earlier. After 30 days, I've not heard that before. I've not heard that. Because if you go by Virginia University, they've got a time frame as to when the earliest records. Now, they may be, obviously they've only done a certain amount. They did 2,500 people or kids, and out of that, 1,200 can't be debunked in any shape or form. So you could say, well, maybe they haven't got enough control, enough tests to see whether or not 30 days does happen, because theirs is, I'm trying to remember now, theirs was something like the very earliest was I can't remember, it was years, it wasn't days. But I'd be interested to know where you got that from, so I could look into that if you wouldn't mind. James wrote, time check 6:04, so I'm 20 minutes behind. Thank you, Jane. How are you today? Hope you're okay. P. Grady's wrote, do you believe their base is on the moon? Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we had normal people with very good telescopes filming the moon day in, day out. They had millions of subscribers on YouTube, and YouTube pulled them off. Why would they pull them off? And with those videos, you could actually see craft flying in and out and all this kind of stuff. So yes, I think there's definitely bases on the moon, ours as well as other aliens that were already there. Captain has wrote, what came first, the chicken or the egg? I have tried to work that one out myself. And I can't remember what my outcome was. It was something to do with that it wasn't a chicken before it became a chicken. In other words, it was a different animal before it became a chicken. In other words, the first egg was ended up being a chicken, whereas the thing that laid it might have, over because of evolution, might have not been 100% a chicken, if that makes sense. Because in order for something to evolve, it needs to evolve from birth as opposed to it being an adult already. So my conclusion was a chicken would have come first before the egg, because in order for it to be a chicken, it would have needed to grow up as a chicken and then lay the egg as another egg for a real chicken. So the creature that laid the egg originally wasn't a chicken. So you could say, what came first? You know, if you're going to go by the actual chicken side of it, I'm guessing you're saying what came first, the chicken's egg, because otherwise, one could argue that insects lay eggs, and spiders do as well, I think, in some sort of form, and tadpoles do. In a is it Yeah, maybe I'll shut up now before I get stupid. The Wizards wrote, "What's your take on the crystal skulls?" I believe they're genuine. I believe definitely they're genuine. I'm trying to remember the guy's name, the main one, but you know the one that was found. Carter, I think it was. Was it Carter? No. But yeah, I did a video on the crystal skulls, and I basically point out the only person that said it was fake. I proved that he was. I debunk him terribly easily. Basically, first he says there's scratch marks on them. These things are thousands, probably billions. I don't know how old they are, but certainly, if your iPhone hasn't got scratches on it, then you've done something well. But basically, these crystal skulls, they're allowed to be dropped. They're allowed to be bashed into things. So anyway, he says they're tool marks. But even if they're tool marks, are you saying that aliens that built them, because there's no way we would have been able to do it, not of these particular types of crystals. Some of these crystals would have fractured because there's different types of skull. Anyway, but what he's saying is aliens can't do that. They have to have done that by magic instead of tools. I mean, seriously? What a numpty. But anyway, you check into actually his history. This is the only person that's actually studied actually took one of the skulls and put it under a microscope. Then you realise, you do your homework on him, and you realise that he was thrown out of his peer group because he said that a particular person, a politician, was a relation to Genghis Khan, and his peers done the same tests and found you're absolutely wrong, you numpty. So he was then thrown out. But also, when you actually do some more digging, you find that he went to a university where he was funded by, wait for it, the Rockefellers. And if you know anything about the Rockefellers, when they're involved, wait for the debunking to happen of anything. And that seems to be the case with the crystal skulls. So of course, people out there read his report saying it's fake, and people believe it without doing any homework. And of course, when you do your homework, you realise that this person can't be trusted. So yes, I think they're genuine, and I do think they have. I mean, crystals can hold, terabytes and even bigger than that. I don't know what the next word is. Google bytes maybe, of data. Crystals can. Philips did it back in 2014. Started using crystals to store information. So if the skulls did have information in it, it could have a humongous amount. And of course, the woman that ended up being was the original daughter of the main skull that we're all familiar with. She's had people look at it, and sometimes the skull actually does, at certain times, have a light, come from it, apparently. So, if it was just left on a desk and someone's working away, suddenly they see this light thing come from its eyes, which is why Spielberg ended up using that in the Indiana Jones and Kingdom of Crystal Skull. So, but yeah, I think they're genuine. I just don't think we can replicate or couldn't replicate that same skill back then. Avatars were our intelligence can't see what they are able to do. Our intelligence can't see what they are able to do. I'm guessing. Oh, sorry, I'll carry on reading. We can't even see our own reality, just minute spectrums of light creating through the holograph. Yeah, I mean we're new kids on the block. Captain has wrote, surely a collective consciousness awakening would help us advance. Well, supposedly they tried that with the star seeds back in the 60s, where orbs, entities that had already been here on Earth, that are now with another alien race at that point, all got asked, would they mind going back, joining with humans again, so they can raise our consciousness to over 50%, in which case then our future would be a lot better off. They did that in, I think, 2 or 3 tranches of children being born, having these souls, spirits, orbs, whatever you want to call them, that had already been round and were trying to help us with our consciousness, enlightening us basically. But I don't feel we've been enlightened, so I don't know if that's actually worked or not, and whether or not it's true. But that's what I'd heard. Donna's wrote, "Hi Donna, I have always I've always viewed incarnations on this planet as an intense course. Only the bravest souls." Interesting. Um, I mean, from the chats I've had with clairvoyants and mediums, etc., they've not said that. It looks like every orb has to learn and continue to learn, and if they don't learn enough, then they come back round. So I probably wouldn't have said, just from my own experience, don't hate me, um, that it was that every orb has to eventually move on up, and they have to learn. What they're learning is wisdom, and that's written in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, which was again written before we started working out from clairvoyance, mediums, etc. That's what they say they're learning. So it kind of makes sense, as well as hypnoregression and stuff. So yeah, so I see what you're saying. Thank you, Sherry, for the rose. But I wouldn't say only the bravest, because otherwise, what happens to the ones that's not brave? Do they get left alone? Do they just sit out in the ether? Thank you, Sherry. You don't have to. Um, so I think all of them would probably have to. Avatar has wrote, Persephone and Hermes, I'm terrible at pronunciations, Pan, have gone through and back, as they are only ones who have passage. I've probably read that all wrong, haven't I? I'm terrible at reading. Have gone through and back, as they have the only ones that have passage. When you say gone through, I'm guessing that was to do with portals that we were talking about earlier. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out. Thank you, Dan, for the heart. For the 2 hearts, thank you. I'm trying to. Sorry, Avatar. I'm trying to work out what that was. What you was referring to there. Thank you, Dan. You're overhearting me now. Thank you. You didn't have to. Rick Martins wrote, "Why do they hide the land Bird found?" But basically, why not? Bird admitted that on the North Pole, they military is there, and he said it's getting quite crowded now. That was his words. So in other words, probably more than just the American military are on the North Pole, but on the South Pole, when Bird went over, he found that there was more land, not extra land, but land. In other words, not covered in ice. Now, if they were telling or if the thing that I heard years ago was telling the truth, that there was a crashed or a ship UFO under the ice, which I've heard more recently as well, massive ship, that would make sense for the American military to warn off everyone else, pay them. They've paid many countries a lot of money for doing many different things. They tried not blackmailing, but tried giving money to Brazil about everything to do with UFOs. In other words, Brazil wouldn't talk about UFOs in the newspapers, etc., etc., and in return they would be given money. They refused it for a very, very, very long time until the American military started doing sanction type things on them, in which case they had to toe the line. So you can look back at the Brazilian newspapers, and literally every day there was UFOs this and abductions that. But now you won't see that because that's what the Americans do. So I believe they've paid the states, the countries, to do with that treaty, for the Antarctica Treaty, as a deal. In other words, everything goes through the American military. So I think that's the reason why they don't want people there. Of course, it's another location that Korea, etc., probably wouldn't be looking for tactical weapons to be fired from, if that makes sense. If everyone thinks it's just all ice, then you probably wouldn't look there for nukes and stuff like that might attack people. So that's what would be my logical conclusion to it. Avatar has wrote Hermes, Lucifer, Pan, the Shepherd equals the Shepherd, and then wrote because it's Asylum. Hopefully I pronounced that right. Wasn't there a film called Asylum with Mark Wahlberg? Someone like that. And then Avatar carried on with Harvest, Persephone. I'm terrible at pronunciations. Harvest of Souls Ready to Ascend Now. Wise wrote, could AI be Lucifer? No, I think Lucifer... So basically, when you read about the Ajiji coming down from the moon, Mars, to effectively steal women, that was their plan. There was a couple of people on Mars, a couple of Anunnaki on Mars, or Gigi on Mars, at that point, and I think it's either one of them that they name them, or it could have been Anzu. I have a feeling it was probably Anzu, who was classed as Lucifer, and he was the grandson of Alalula, who he ended up getting into allowing the Agigi to fight the Anunnaki at one point. This is even before they stole the women. And then Anzu then came and stole the Tablets of Destiny. So if anyone's going to be Lucifer, I would say it would have been him. Avatar has wrote Alpha Centauri, which is a name you don't hear of much, really, but apparently there is aliens there. Dan has wrote, watched your videos for years now. Oh, thank you, Dan. And you're still listening to me, bless you. Braver than I am. Avatars wrote, Zeta Reticuli can be dark or light. Free will all have, just as jinns do, which is the other type of creatures that was formed when the Big Bang was formed, the jinn. In my opinion, based on the writings of the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. What would you... Sorry, a Dot has wrote, what would you do if you'd found a spaceship? What would I do if I found a spaceship? It's a good question. Because the second that I make a phone call to anyone and say, hey, I found a spaceship, that spaceship will be... some military will be in on it. They do listen in using AI on technology, etc. I would need to think long and hard how to absolutely maximum exposure to get everyone to come and see the spaceship there and then, as opposed to taking pictures of it myself, because people will say it's just me using CGI. So I would do whatever it took to get as many normal folk to come and see it suddenly. I don't know what that would be, but that's what I would do. And now, if Dot works for the military and is trying to find out what I would do, I'm joking. I would just, I'd ring the military and say, hey, look, I found a spaceship, come pick it up. Ritz the Biz wrote, I love your channel. Oh, thank you. Liam's wrote, hello, love your live. I'm guessing that's your lives and content. Thank you, Liam. Yeah, that's nice of you to say. Avatars wrote, love you, brother. Just popped in to say hi. Love you to your family. Can't wait for a new year. That's very clever. Very clever. A new year. Brilliant. Thank you, Avatara. Francis has wrote, Dr. Stephen Greer, do you have news? I mean, he does his thing. I think he does it very well. I do believe in Dr. Stephen Greer. I don't think he's out there to deceive anyone whatsoever. So yeah, he's one of the good guys, I think. However, there is people out there that's trying to say that he's not, but he was a doctor. You don't give up the doctor to go around and set up a disclosure project back in the early 2000s and be ridiculed and everything else when he was a perfectly good doctor earning perfectly good money. So when if he was unemployed and that, then I probably would have said yeah maybe but he's got such knowledge as well. Um, so yeah, I think he's genuine. Ritz has wrote, what happens to the Anunnaki's soul when they die? Do they have a god? So they believe there's a creator of everything. They've mentioned that a few times in their text. What that creator of everything is, could it be a thought? Could it be computer code? I have no idea. They don't elaborate on it. Now, in my opinion, I don't think they had any idea that spirits, souls, were with them. And the reason for that is because when they came here and they started to do around the Egyptian period, where they started to work out that there's life after death and etc., etc., they went all in on it. Mummification, writing books, Emerald Tablets of Thoth, rituals, Book of the Dead. The list goes on. Now, if they knew about spirits already, they wouldn't have went all in. And it's not just the Egyptians, it's the Sumerians talking about Marduk trying to figure out how to do life after death. And Inanna, she even tries to go to the underworld. All of the Anunnaki start on this massive quest of what happens after death. Now, technically, they have been probably alive a lot longer than us humans in terms of evolution, because they had the technologies etc. to come here. And they created us only 300,000 years ago, so they've been around a lot longer than us. And you'd think that they would have known about spirits, but I don't think they did. So either they didn't have them join with them, maybe they didn't have a pineal gland, or they did have spirits join with them, but just never even thought about it. But yeah, so I don't think they were that clued up on it because of the amount of writings that they did. So what happens to their soul, if they have one, I would guess the same as what happens to ours, goes around and learns and learns and learns. Eventually, the soul goes to plane 3, which is where they become a guardian spirit, not an angel, because an angel is just a messenger. Watch my videos. I succinctly, in my opinion, prove that because the Hebrew word for angel is messenger, so you go back and look at the original text that the Hebrew would have been copying from, messenger, messenger, messenger. I mean, who I wouldn't write the word messenger. I would say, old Joe Bloggs went and done this, and old Fred done that. But the Anunnaki, they write, a messenger went to pick up Enoch, a messenger went to do this, and a messenger did that. But the Hebrew translation, and unfortunately, some translator people that know Hebrew also translated to Sumerian. So they would say an angel come down and took Enoch. But another translator that knows the proper language for Sumerian would say, no, it's not angel, that's the Hebrew version of the messenger. It's messenger. So when you read out, it makes so much sense that it is a messenger. So anyway, so yeah, the third plane of existence is, from everything that I've learned, is where they then end up, passing all their goals in order of learning wisdom, and then they become an entity that looks over certain individuals. Now, they could be looking over more than one person at a time, because we all assume, oh, it's great Uncle Bulgaria looking after me as my spirit guide, but it might not be that. You only that spirit guide may have the ability to because apparently spirits can see forward, backwards, etc. in time. So maybe they're looking after another human at the same time that maybe not even born to us yet, but they can see it in the future. So Dan has wrote Gary McKinnon. Yes, I did spell it right. Kinnon. Yeah, well done. Thank you, Dan. Blacks has wrote thoughts on the World Economic Forum. The only thought I would have is if I had a spare nuke, I would. Yeah, you probably guessed what I'm gonna say. The thing is, I said this yesterday. They could have just asked us to have less kids instead of this whole, depopulation thing. They could have just asked us to have less kids. Some of us wouldn't. But a lot of people certainly the people that went round and said, "Yeah, I'll have 4 of those in my arm." They probably would have said, "Yeah, okay, we'll only have 1 kid," because they're acquiescent. They're they believe what the government say. Forgive me if you're one of those people, but you obviously did believe what the government said if you got the thingy. I didn't believe what the government said. But, even if in preponderance of the amount of people that was prepared to not have kids over a long period of time, but not as long as they've been going already, in order for the new One World government, etc., then I think we would have got through this and survived. But they want to do it a different way. They want to wipe us out. Ritz has wrote, "What happens to the Anunnaki soul?" I read that. Quinoxes wrote, "The Anunnaki who had kids and left the planet. Does that suggest they don't care much towards kids?" Well, they were technically demigods, and they didn't have the same longevity as the Anunnaki parent, so they would have died. And the question is, do they care about their kids? Well, when you read Enki had relationships with his daughter's daughter, that was his granddaughter, his great-granddaughter, his great-great-great-granddaughter, because he kept doing naughty bad things. Would you say they care about them? I wouldn't. I would say they would do whatever they want for their own benefit, really. It comes across. Elaine's wrote, "What do you think of Dr. Vernon Coleman? A few people now have tried to discredit him." I don't know who that is, Elaine. Sorry. I don't know. I've not looked into whoever that is. Sorry. You probably know more on me than me. 123 has wrote, "Do you believe there are," and then a little planet symbol, "beyond ice wall, different species and aliens?" There is no ice wall. There is no ice wall. Trust me, there is no ice wall. First of all, firing rockets up to bash through and telling everyone, "Hey, we're going to be launching a rocket up next week." Bad idea. If there's an ice wall that we're or dome even that we're trying to pretend. So the ice wall, you only ever see the pictures of Antarctica, or the North and South Pole, Arctic and Antarctica. You don't see an ice wall behind Australia. And technically, people in Australia by the coast with a telescope could see an ice wall. If it's flat and there's an ice wall, they could. Telescopes go a lot further than 4,000 miles. So no one has seen that. In fact, you've got more reports of mermaids than you have of the ice wall. Genuinely true. Not just now, even Blackbeard and some other logbooks from back in the day, pirates and whatnot, had said they've seen mermaids. So you've got more reports of mermaids than you have anyone, because there's 0 people that's actually said they've seen an ice wall behind anywhere else other than. So when you say, is there land beyond the ice wall, there is no extra land, because watch my pinned video, I explain it clearly, and not one person's wrote that I'm wrong, because they can't. So no, there's no other species beyond an ice wall, because there is no ice wall. Sorry. It makes a good story, but no, there is no ice wall. And the mermaids, I think, were genuine, actually, because we've got carvings and writing of Enki saying that he created 2 types of merman and we've even got the images on the cylinder seals in the Morgan Library. So user 749 is right. What about the giants? Yeah, they, in my opinion, not all of the offspring off of the Anunnaki and humans ended up giants. We know as Adapa would have been a giant because he was Enki's son, and obviously Eve would have been a giant as well. So they weren't giants, but some of them had gigantism. Some of the children, and we, if you follow the trail, you can see that everywhere that the Anunnaki went, Greece, Rome, etc., they did. When, for example, Enki, Poseidon, Neptune, same person, had children, some of those ended up fine. Some of them ended up giants. So if you look up the mythology of Greece, you'll find that Enki, or Neptune, or Poseidon, sorry, had children with gigantism, basically giants. So definitely giants back then, which makes sense because all it took was, because obviously we're not really compatible with the Anunnaki, otherwise we wouldn't have issues with the Rh negative blood. So we even have gigantism. There's people here now. Now we can cure it, but back then, if they, maybe they didn't have the technology to cure it, or maybe just left the giants to their own devices, because obviously it wasn't always Anu or Enki or one of the main gods. It was some of the Anunnaki that were breeding with the humans, and at one point, as you know, where the Aegi, the Watchers, stole the women, they locked themselves on Mount Sinai in a cave, and there was a big battle and everything else. So they had children. So they weren't going to go to Enki and say, "Hey, look, my child's ended up, 20 foot tall. Can you help us?" Because they were at war with the Anunnaki. So it kind of makes sense that some of these children would have had, gigantism. Blake has wrote, "Listen to Bashar. Why would I do that, Blake? I've debunked him. Every time I watch him, I can debunk him. I don't want to. I've done videos and I've pulled them off now, but my regulars know that I've done videos showing where he says things and contradicts himself. And I even pointed out in the same videos where he admits that when he was younger, he started doing research into this. So basically, he's doing exactly what I'm doing, but he's getting paid for it and pretending that he's channeling an alien race that knew what people said and did on Earth 400,000 years ago, whatever. So yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, but no, he's just a very good researcher that cocks up every now and then. And so yeah, there's no, sorry, I can't watch him. It does frustrate me. Sorry, I'd rather listen to me than him. Sorry. Dan has wrote, "Is it true that most people say that they've been abducted have schizophrenia?" I've never heard that. I've never heard that people that's been abducted, I'm guessing by aliens, have said ended up with schizophrenia. Have you heard that? No, I haven't either. No, neither of us have heard of it. Sorry, bad joke. But no, I've not heard of that. No, never heard of it. Sorry. Great Full Mary's wrote 90 days. I'm not sure what I was talking about at that point for you to have said 90 days. Sorry. This is live. It's just I read every single question. Sherry's wrote, "Got it from the book of Ramadosh." So that was the where they have 30 days to decide whether or not they want to reincarnate or not. Okay, I will reread that then. Thank you. Yeah, let me just screen grab that so I remember. Thank you. I'll look into that. Elaine wrote, "Chickens are lizards." You are correct, Lord. Well, thank you. It wasn't me that said it. It was the actual research where they in an embryo they switched on a marker DNA, which allowed the chicken to have scales instead of feathers. This was a few years back, so their argument is that the junk DNA isn't junk DNA. It's DNA from a previous state that's obviously evolved and evolved and evolved, and it just becomes, you know, just like an old pair of socks. It's kicking around, but you don't use it anymore. So I'd be interested to know why you say you would agree that chickens are lizards, because I'm guessing you look at them and a lot more than I would, because you've got chickens. Interesting. Just scrolling down. Octiz has wrote hello. Hi Octiz. Matty's wrote, bro, Bigfoot isn't real. Oh, Matty, I hope you're here. So explain to me, please be still here, please, and don't run away if you are. Please explain to me. No one has. I keep doing this on these lives. No one sticks around. Please explain to me how that when normal people with their dogs encounter a Bigfoot and the dog runs after Bigfoot, the Bigfoot grabs the dog, twists its neck 360 degrees, kills the dog, and the people end up obviously upset that their dog's died and they call the police. Tell me who does the neck twisting if it's not Bigfoot. Please tell me that. You're going to say that doesn't happen. It does happen. Trust me, it does. People don't make up these stories about their dogs if their dogs didn't get their necks twisted 360 degrees. So if you could tell me who breaks their dogs' necks and why they would lie about it being a Bigfoot, and this is up and down the whole of America. It's not just one little place once. This happens a lot. And even hunting dogs get their necks twisted if they get caught by a Bigfoot. And deers get their necks twisted because of Bigfoot. And humans have been killed by Bigfoot by twisting their neck. So if you could just tell me, Matty, please, be the only one that can tell me why dogs get their necks twisted if it's not Bigfoot. Rewoo Whoop Whoop has wrote, maybe it's like the Norse situation. Brave to go to Valhalla and others hell. Yeah. Technically, hell didn't come along until when I mean, I don't know exactly, but I remember hearing a few different priests and stuff saying that hell wasn't around until religion started. So there is an underworld that the Sumerian gods talked about as such, halls of Amenti. But it's not hell. There's no fire and brimstone, and that's no, oh, if you're bad, you're going to go there. It's just basically where the orbs are. Now, if you go along with the crop circles, where people say that they see the orbs coming out of the ground before they create a crop circle, then maybe when the Anunnaki is saying that the orbs are in the ground, down, maybe they are. Maybe they prefer being inside the earth, because if the sun does affect their frequency and they struggle to do things in sunlight, maybe being inside an earth is easier and better for them because they're not getting bombarded by the photons, etc. So that would, thank you, Elaine, that would make sense to me, I think. Truth has wrote, he said it's highly populated. Truther Girl said he said it's highly populated. I'm sorry, I don't know what I was talking about at that point. That's the danger of reading out every question. He said it's highly populated. You're all probably shouting at me saying, it means this. I don't know, sorry. Matty Boy, this is the same person that said bro. You know when someone says bro, don't you? You know they're trying to dig at you. Let's be honest, it's true. Anyway, Matty Boy has now wrote, our true history, and then crying out loud face. So I was right with the bro. You mean your make-believe? Funny that. This Matty Boy's gone now. When I asked the question, there's no way they're going to reply to that. Oh, Matty, you made yourself look like a numpty. True for Girls wrote, elites, I'm sure. Octiz wrote, just wish they came out with what they know. Just feel like there's more people wanting to know now. Yeah, they really won't. They really won't. Also, there's countries such as Korea, I guess, or North Korea, that they probably wouldn't want them to know how advanced their tech is, etc. just from a military point of view, I would imagine. Sherry's wrote, there are some pictures of Antarctica in the 1900s with buildings and statues like ancient Greece. Be careful with the pictures. I say that because when people were talking about Tartaria, I knocked up a photograph or picture of a mobile phone because people were saying that they saw pictures of mobile phones. So I knocked one up, and the amount of comments that said, you had me. I thought it was a real picture. So that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying you're wrong, but it's too easy. And of course, the giant skeletons. There was that competition a few years back. Deliberately, it was actually quite crafty. From what I understand, it was deliberately done so that the internet would be flooded with giant skeletons for this competition. So, in other words, Photoshop competition, and it was deliberately done so that anyone looking up giant skeletons will see these fake ones and not think that there was really real pictures of giant skeletons. Same as goes for the crop circles. They couldn't stop the crop circles happening, so they decided to pay Doug and Dave originally to tell people that it was them that went round and made crop circles, which then, of course, was splattered all over the papers because the papers are run by the same people, and a lot of people fell for it and said, okay, the crop circles are all, even though they were made at the same time in different countries, and Sir Patrick Moore had seen one in the 60s and documented it on video, but Doug and Dave apparently did it in the late 70s. Yeah, so that's what happens with the pictures. So I'm just saying, I struggle with just pictures. I'd probably need a little bit more on it than just the pictures. Dazeth has wrote, hello, what are you all talking about? Anything that you guys are asking me? Sometimes I don't know things. Sometimes I do know things that you may think I don't, in which case it's up to you whether you believe me or not. CK Cities wrote, what's in Antarctica Power, Agatha? I think there is an entrance there, certainly. I think that's where the entrance would be to the inner Earth. But I don't, thank you, Sherry, but I don't think it's another planet inside. I think it's just chasms, very, very large chasms. And the few whistleblowers that have said things have kind of contradicted themselves to each other. But again, I have to be logical and say, well, maybe they went to different parts of the inner Earth. Call it inner Earth, whatever you want to call it. But the reason why I do think there was definitely big caves there is because when you've got the Tibetans calling it Shambhala, there's different names for the inner Earth all over the place. So for them to come up with a name for something that's not true, it kind of makes you think that there is definitely something going on there. True for Girls wrote, Starlink is covering Antarctica. Probably, yeah. I mean, yeah, you're probably right there. Great Full Marys wrote, shit, you still try and go in. Not sure if that's to do with people going into Antarctica or sorry. Roy MCs wrote, best thing on TikTok. I'm guessing that's me. Thank you. Thank you very much. True for Girls wrote, good climate and seasons over there. Yeah. Yeah. From what Admiral Byrd suggested, yeah, it's in Antarctica. Muffin Man, I can't help but smile every time I read that name. Evening all. Hi, Muffin Man. I want to be a real boy. That was Gingerbread Man, wasn't it? No, it was Pinocchio. All right now, as wrote I, and then space LI, and then space TH, then space A, then space LO. Not sure what that is, but I'll pretend it's hello. True for Girls wrote, hi, Muffin Man. You just wanted to say Muffin Man, didn't you, True for Girls? Everyone wants to, we get everyone going, Muffin Man. True for Girls wrote, one was found with 3 fingers very long. That, I'm guessing that's a giant. If that was a giant, they generally have 6 fingers, red hair, and 2 rows of teeth. Is a general, because that's it's possible that they could have been deformed or something. Sherry's wrote, Anunnaki have a conduit. We have a pineal gland and a conduit. Okay, that's interesting. That would make sense why they probably didn't understand about the spirits. Interesting you said that, Sherry, because if you remember the binary code crop circle that was supposedly done by aliens, where it talks about they depose deception, and they also wrote conduit, time running out, some words to the effect of time running out, conduit closing. Does that mean our conduits are closing? Interesting. Lucas wrote 2W. I'm not, and then wrote, what happens after death from your understanding? You are in control of an orb that joined with you when you was born or in the mother's womb. You're in control of that for a period of time, so you can go and watch loved ones, go backwards and forwards in time. But at some point, that orb will take control, go to the second plane or the next plane up of existence, take control back. You are now just a memory in that orb along with all the other people that it's been with. That orb then goes back round, reincarnates into someone else, and it all happens over and over. So you do technically die at some point. Woo Woo has wrote, if Anunnaki have a god, shouldn't humans worship him and not them? Well, that's the question. It's a really good question, actually. Go to the top of the class for that. The reason why I would say no is because the Anunnaki never said they worshipped the creator of everything. They mention the creator of everything, but they don't say they worship. There's no shrine. There's a shrine to Nibiru here on Earth. They had one in Africa. But they didn't have a shrine to a god or a deity or anything like that. So they never worshipped. There was no temples built to the creator of everything. But they did build temples for us to worship them, not in a religious way, but because they had an ego and they had power. They definitely had ego. They had a power trip by creating us and making us work for them and worship them. So that's probably why we wouldn't be worshipping the creator of everything, because they didn't. Ritzers wrote, in Islam, the jinns were created before humans. Jinns died too and are judged by God. Well, so my take on the jinns is, if you read the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, they were created at the same time as the light energy beings, the orbs. And there was a fight all through history between the light energy beings and the darkness. Now, they called them the darkness, or that's the translation of the jinn. Now, I'm the only person, I know it keeps sounding like I'm a broken record, but when you read it, please go and someone read it. Now, the darkness sat on thrones and all this kind of stuff. Now, when the universe was first created, there was no light. So to call them darkness didn't make much sense to me. But when I started to think, hang on, it's got to be another race, and then I realised the only other race we're aware of is jinn. Could it be the jinn? And then when you read it now, and every time they say the dark or the darkness, they're fighting. They literally say we're fighting the darkness. I don't think it was nighttime darkness. I think it actually was darkness, as in an alien race or orbs or something. So I think the jinn can die just like the orbs. Now, technically, the orbs are eternal. However, if you go along with the assumption that what I've been told is that the nuclear weapons we use, now this may be different for the same type that the Anunnaki use. They use some type of nukes. But the nukes that we use with Hiroshima, etc., kill and break up the spirit, the orb. So they don't want us using that because we're destroying spirits, basically. Now, if they can get destroyed by nukes, then so could the jinn. But when you say judged by God, again, that's, if you go back by the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, it was the Council of Seven and you would only really review your own life, or the light energy beings would review their own life. So, did the jinn have their own god, or Council of Seven? I don't know, but it's certainly not the same god that the Bible's talking about, because the Bible's talking about Enki and Lil, etc., which we've got the original tablets that match, but better match the Bible version. So, but I see what you're saying. Yeah, thank you. All right, now as wrote Anunnaki, our perception of the Gnostic Demiurge. So I'm just trying to get my head around it. So you're saying the Anunnaki weren't real, were just a perception, even though the carvings, the statues, the buildings, the math, the fact that we knew they told us about planets that we didn't know about. So from a perspective point of view, I would say they were definitely here. We've got fused chromosomes that they say they created us. We've got the location of where they bred with us for the Rh negative when humans had. Everything matches that they were physically here. Britmans wrote Black Ops, I'm interested. Well, basically Black Ops is any clandestine activity that's done by the government, secret government. And the secret government siphon off money from the American taxpayer, which is why Donald Rumsfeld back in 2001, a day before you know what happened, 9/11, said they're missing trillions of dollars. And of course that was perfectly timed, because the next day no one's talking about that anymore. So yeah, so basically anything that goes for Areas 51, S4 Groom Lake, Men in Black, Skunk Works, Lockheed Martin, all get paid from these black budgets where they're doing black budgety stuff, such as back engineering craft. Leandro was, hi, what's your take on demons? Well, demons, the original word for demon was a meteorite. That's the actual translation of the oldest word. Now, as time went on, people would use that word for something evil, because if you was bombarded by meteorites and your family all got killed, you would probably say frickin' demons. So over time, that word got used, just like we use, I could mention a 4-letter word that's rude, but it's one of the words that you could use for absolutely anything. You could put it into a seductive sentence, you could put it into an angry sentence, etc. And the same goes with demons. I think over time people use the word demon to signify something evil, just like monster. You can't say you can't describe a monster, and you can't describe a demon, because there was no demon. So it became an evil name. Now, whether or not there's entities out there, that can interdimensionally come through, that we could call a demon because we believe it's evil, fine, you can call it a demon if you want, but it's not a demon that's got an image with it, because it's not the same as a monster. There is no image to a monster. So that's what demons really were. They were just meteorites to start off with, but over time people's used it. CK Cities wrote Admiral Byrd journals about what he saw. What do you reckon? Well, that was his diary. I certainly think he went to Antarctica. I mean, he did. In fact, there's footage of him going back with the fleet, where they ended up getting beat, but they went back as a scientific expedition to the Antarctica. This was to do with the Nazis being there, and he went back and with the fleet, and they got their asses kicked because of the technology that the Nazis had, which were UFOs, etc. Now, we know that certain amount of the fleet never came back, so to do an expedition and lose military personnel is really bad. And also, there's actual footage of them with tanks driving from the ships onto the actual continent, with tanks and jeeps. And for a scientific experiment, half half the American fleet went there, pretty much. So yes, he definitely did do something. He definitely saw something, and definitely lost a lot of men in the process. Trevor's wrote, so does that mean there's no ice wall? No, there's no ice wall. I don't know why people even still think that. The pictures you see of an ice wall is Antarctica, um, North or South Pole, basically. It's not behind Australia. It's not behind Scotland. It's not anywhere because no, there is no ice wall. People of what they've done is they've took the word firmament and said that means a dome, even though it actually means atmosphere. But somehow they've created a dome. And then when I say to them, okay, what about Halley's Comet inside the dome? Yeah, you can't answer that one because there's no dome. And then they say, well, the dome's further out. And I say, okay, what about the rocket that hit it before it got out into space? Can't answer that one. There's basically just frustrating. There is no ice wall. The pictures you see are here on Earth, normal ice in the poles. That's it. If you can show me a picture with a geotag of it behind Australia, great. If you can't, which you won't, yeah. Leanne has wrote. Sorry, they're chatting to each other. All right, now has wrote, we're artificial organisms. I wouldn't have said so. When you say artificial. Now, let me ask you a question. There was an episode of Star Trek Next Generation. I don't know how familiar you are with that. And it had Moriarty. Now, he was artificial. However, as he said, I think, therefore I am. So, even if we are artificial, now that we are sentient, that we think, therefore we are, does that mean we're now not artificial anymore? And even if we are, does it make any difference because we still continue an existence that we believe is correct? Zoe's wrote, just arrived, thoughts on UFOs linking to the paranormal? Absolutely, yes. So there's basically everything is connected. I know it sounds stupid, Bigfoot because they're aliens. Not the ones, well, they are technically aliens, but they're the ones stuck here and from an alien race. Long story, but basically everything goes back. All my research leads me to the orbs. So the Greys deal with the orbs, the Orions deal with the orbs, the Tall Whites deal with the orbs, Palladians. Everything all goes back to these orbs. And even if you listen to Linda Moulton Howe, where she's saying that different factions of aliens are fighting each other, they're stealing the orbs from the people or the other race to stop them having orbs inside them. In other words, spirits, entities, souls, whatever you want to call them. So instead of attacking the people, they're actually siphoning off the orbs and holding them and hiding them, which is crazy. So everything is connected to spirits or orbs or whatever you want to, light energy beings. Luke Bowers has wrote, what is behind the hole that blocked out in Antarctica on Google Maps? It's either one of two. So, well, if it's the thing that I'm thinking you're thinking or looked at, it would be the entrance to one of the entrances to the inner Earth, if that's what. Now, way back 2000 and, oh god, whatever it was, 2010, you could actually see the metal plate of the door of the entrance to the inner Earth. I don't doubt if you can see it now, but yeah, you could actually see the door. It was crazy, and it was freaking huge. I'm trying to remember. Some people did measurements and said it was massive. You could fly 3 or 4 jumbo jets in side by side, no problem at all. Massive. But yeah, I think that if that's what you're referring to, other than that, sometimes they block out what perceived to be pyramids in the ice, and sometimes they black out. Certainly black out the land, or Photoshop over it so it looks like it's all ice there. So yeah, or it could be military personnel that they're blacking out at that point for whatever reason. The military's there. Uh, all right, Now's wrote nice live. Anyway, love the topics. Thank you very much. Britmans wrote, what about the 10th wonder of the world? Yeah, that's right, me. Well, I will bow to you. I'm guessing it's the 10th wonder of the modern world, because you probably know in fact, there was three lots of wonders of the world, if I'm not mistaken. There was ones way before, any man-made structures. Then there's the ancient world, which is the pyramids, etc. And then there's the modern wonders of the world, which have, more modern fancy stuff. I can't remember, like Burj Khalifa might be on it, or things like that. Trevor's wrote, so do you think the earth is flat? No. I still, okay, so on one of my videos, which I had someone this morning write, that doesn't prove anything, because they can't answer it. So basically, any rocket that goes up anywhere in the world, when the camera spins round, or balloon, you always see equal distance all around. Now, if you was on a flat Earth, the rocket that goes up in Australia would have 4,000 miles before the edge and 20-odd thousand miles the opposite way. But it's equal. And you only ever get it equal if you're on a ball. So I did a video showing rockets, independent rockets, nothing to do with NASA, going up in Australia, and then I showed one in America, and I said, why are these both equal? You can't have that. That doesn't equate if you've got a flat Earth. And of course, the closest I've got to anyone debunking me is saying that doesn't prove anything. And I was like, okay, no problem. Tell me why I'm wrong. Tell me how you can have equal distance. They don't come back. So just by that one simple thing, it proves it's round. It does prove it's round. Because you can't, anywhere on a ball, you put a dot, you're in the centre of that dot. It's just the way it is. Sherry spoke to Luke, saying buildings and statues that look Greek. Life of Hard Knocks has wrote Top Hat Man, gnomes. I can't help it, I always read gnomes instead of gnomes. Fade trees, moving, UFOs, orbs, demons, 2D pitch black silhouettes if human form. I'm not sure if that's a question, because you've put a hell of a lot in there, or whether you're just sort of throwing things out that I could have probably talked about as well. I don't know. The only thing out of all of those I probably wouldn't have had much knowledge on would be trees moving. I have seen videos of that, but again, I do CGI, and if I wanted to, I could have done that 20 years ago, making trees move from footage. So yeah, yeah, basically. Trevor's wrote Anunnaki ... fallen angels. Technically, the Ajiji are fallen angels, angels being messengers anyway. But yeah, the Ajiji, which are technically Anunnaki, which are all Elohim. 1234's wrote for Anne's My. We'll check you videos. Oh, thank you. Try and watch them from video 1 onwards, only because I do them in a chronological order, and it makes so much more sense. Excuse me. Ritz the Bits has wrote, what happens to the Anunnaki's soul when they die? Do they have a god? I kind of answered that before, where I don't think they knew they had one. But my guess would be it would still go round and learn, and I don't think they would go in front of a god. I think it would get the orbs would go in front of the Council of Seven, because technically Thoth was an Anunnaki, and he did manage to get to see the Seven, if you believe the book that or text that he wrote. So he saw all 9 of the main orbs, entities. So if the Anunnaki was there was only one type of orb, in other words, the same ones that join with us, then I would imagine the ones that leave the Anunnaki would also join, would go in front of the same seven. Natalie's wrote, I've had an experience. I would be very much interested to know. Mark Mansbridge wrote, enjoying the live. Oh, thank you, Mark. I try and be as quick as I can, but sometimes I don't, so please forgive me, everybody. Leanne's wrote, Sitzo, these are the people that see what's really going on. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be schizo or I don't know what Sitzo is, sorry. Sorry, yeah, you got me on that one. Ritz has wrote, what happened to the Anunnaki? Read that one. Deanne's wrote, I have a question, no problem at all, just feel free to ask. This is live, whoever's listening, it's just I read out every single question. Great Fool Mary's wrote, haha, texts go too slow. Elaine's wrote to 1234. Draco, Volumes, Lizards, Amphibor... I can't even pronounce that. Chickens have scales on their legs still. Yeah. I thought you was going to go down that road. Because they do look like dinosaur feet, don't they? I mean, from what we see of what we believe dinosaur feet would look like. I mean, ostriches... That's why I still think a T-Rex arms should be backwards, not forward, because they're no benefit, whereas an ostrich would have had them pointing backwards in the skeleton. So I think they would have been more like that, in my opinion. Leanne's wrote, hi, so does God love Eve? So Enki, we've got the tablets that talk about Enki having his way with two Earth women, and when I say Earth, but humans, that they'd already created 200,000 years before. He had his way with them, and both of them gave birth, one to a boy and one to a girl, which was Adipa and Titi, which was Adam and Eve. Because the Anunnaki are male-centric, the bloodline side of it, Adam was more important than Eve, unfortunately. They were never put to work. It says they were never put to work. The first two, obviously, Cain, Abel was, and Seth was, and then other children thereafter all worked. But Adam and Eve basically didn't ever work, and they did have longevity of life. My estimates from the descriptions of who died, when, what, how long they were, etc. I think Adipa lived to about 900 years. That's just my own conclusions based on everything. So did Enki love Eve? Well, to be fair with you, he did, because he ended up having relationships with Eve, his daughter. Yes. Because if you look at the lineage, you'll see that there was no other females for his sons to have children with. So in other words, Cain, Abel, Seth had, I think two of them had kids. But again, because they were boys, and in fact, Eve ended up having loads of kids, 50 or something in the end, but obviously it was only the first three that we know of. But yeah, apparently Elaine will probably be able to tell you more about the other kids that Eve had. So did he love her? Yes, but he probably liked Adam more. Elaine's wrote to Truthful Girl, do you know the Muffin Man? I was waiting for someone to say that. Sherry's wrote, Eve isn't one woman and no Enlil hates us. Eve isn't one woman. I can only go by the tablets. And no, Enlil hates us. I would probably go along with that. Enlil's not a fan of us. Yeah. I don't know whether he still hates us, or, not now. He's more than likely dead, but he tolerated us, I think. Terix has wrote, the majority of Bigfoot sightings are from the army during the day training courses in forests. I don't. When I research Bigfoot, I don't come across many of those because obviously the army people wouldn't be telling they wouldn't be putting it in newspapers or online, so I don't come across much of the army, but I could imagine that's what they would probably come across, certainly. Scroll down. Alberto's right. If we do find a Bigfoot, do we see it as an animal, primitive man, or a monster? It's an alien race. They fly around with the little greys. We've got documented evidence from the 40s of that in the UK, where no Bigfoot was ever found in the big, other than inside this craft coming out of it and helping the little greys. So that's written in a newspaper article where children had seen that actually happen, and we didn't even know Bigfoots existed here in the UK in the 40s. So it's definitely, and plus those more other sightings. So it's an alien race. So when you say, is it an animal, primitive man, it is a highly sentient creature, alien, that has telepathic abilities. Jane has wrote, no, time check 7:02, so I'm 27 minutes behind. Thank you, Jane, again for being my timekeeper. Yeah, go number 2 in the class for being a good girl. Quinoxes wrote to Alberto, Junior is a very intelligent species. I'm guessing that's Bigfoot. Jane has wrote to Ritz the Biz, the host will get to your question. He is about 30 minutes behind. Well done, thank you. Shah has wrote, there is definitely an ice wall. Mermaids are real. If there's an ice wall anywhere other than the North and South Pole, could you name just one person? I'll take any name. Please don't make one up. That has come to the ice wall. Please don't say that they've been warned off, because 50 years ago the American military did not have the ability to guard the whole of the planet with an ice wall. And then you could say, well, people did talk about an ice wall. And I'll say, show me that. And you'll say, okay, maybe they didn't. All right. Now, people's had cameras since the 1850s. Could you show me any picture of an ice wall that's not in the North and South Pole? No, you can't. Why? Well, because they didn't. Yeah, you get where I'm going with this. Could you tell me any logbooks from old sailors going way back where they say, yes, saw a mermaid and just tripped some ice off the wall to have a Bacardi and Coke? They didn't do that, because there is no ice wall. There really is no ice wall. If you could prove to me that, you could say, well, there's pictures. No. Do you know what the sad thing is? Anyone with a plane could leave Australia, leave Greenland, leave Scotland, leave any one of the edges of our continents and fly and come back and take a picture of the ice wall. Not one live stream, not one audio recording of them being warned off. Nothing. Why is that? Because there is no ice wall. Anyway, Quinoxes wrote, is it true scientists made a minuscule wormhole? I don't know. I've not heard of that. I know they, if you're talking quantum mechanics, I know about quantum mechanics, but not a wormhole, because in order for them to have made a miniature wormhole, they would have needed a second one to actually prove that it's a wormhole. Otherwise, it's just a dot, if you get what I'm saying. So in order for it to be a wormhole, a proper wormhole, it would have needed one end connected to another, that they could have sent something through and back to prove that it's a wormhole. Otherwise, they've just done a rip in time. Does that mean it's a wormhole? No, it could just be a tiny dot in the space time fabric, but doesn't mean it's a wormhole. So from the definition of a wormhole, you would need to have a controlled experiment where it went from one location to another and then back to prove that it was definitely a wormhole. because even if you had the wormhole minuscule in front of you and then a meter away the other end opened up, you still need to send something through. Otherwise, you could just have two holes in space and time. So, in order for them to send something through that's minuscule and return, it would need its own power, unless they could stick through. But so the more my brain's going over it, the more I would say no, it's not true. Just from the logic side of it, they may believe they have a wormhole, but to say definitely it's a wormhole that's minuscule, it doesn't make sense, I'm afraid, to me. Ikrams wrote, is there a reference to alien civilization in scriptures like the Quran? Well, the Sumerian texts talk about an alien race, which is the Anunnaki. So that's the first mention of it. Now, I know there's people out there that say, there's the Lemurians and there's the Moors and there's this, that, and the other back in the olden times, but there's no writing of that, none. So these are people that just sort of, in my opinion, make up names and, basically would go with it, and because no one else knows any different, they believe them. Now, the only other reference, the only other sort of two references would be the Norse with the dwarfs, which I think were the Greys, and the Hopi Indians with the ant people, which I think would have been Greys as well. But any other ancient text talking about aliens, no. I mean, you could say Galzu. The Anunnaki mentioned Galzu, which is the emissary, they said, of the creator of everything. Technically, that would be an alien. I guess technically the creator of everything would be an alien. Now, they do talk about, which I haven't done a video on yet, they do talk about the creatures from Mars, Lahmu, which I'll be doing a video on, which is fascinating, because when you work out what the creatures are, I've done a Patreon video already alluding to it, but when you work out what these creatures that they brought over from Mars, which means there was definitely water on Mars and there was definitely grass for these creatures, when you realise what the creatures are that I think they are, they do talk about them, so they definitely brought creatures over from Mars. But if they're what I think they are, then the video I'd done before where I talk about eyes having slits, Elaine will know what I'm on about now, if she's still listening, with her farm. She'll know what kind of animals they would probably have used to go places with that have slits for eyes. Sorry, waffling on there. I'll do a video on that. I just need to tie everything up with dates and stuff before I release it. Leanne's wrote to Quinoxy, I've been in a wormhole. I went to Hydra constellation. I'd be interested to know how you got back. Ruru Wee Whoop 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 has wrote, oh, okay, that makes sense. They acknowledge there's a bigger power creator but didn't worship it. No, well, they didn't say they worship it. I can only go by, there's no buildings, no shrines, no nothing to it. So, and they also called planets deities, but they didn't worship them. They kind of believed the planets were alive. Samuels wrote, hello humans. Hello back. Leanne's wrote, yes, they're shadows. Samuels love me with hate. I don't know what that means, sorry. Leanne's wrote, demons are sexual, they're dark shadows. See, that's the problem. If you talk to someone else, they'll say that a little grey is a demon. So now we've got a conflict and then some other people say Bill Gates is a demon, and then other people say, that's the problem with the word demon, you see. Everyone uses it for whatever they want it to be. You're saying the dark shadows, but TV will say they're red with two horns and a tail. that's why I struggle with the word demons, because it just doesn't make sense. Now, if you're saying, forget the word demons, if you're saying there's dark shadows out there, um, I'm aware of the shadow people. But yeah, I mean, there's possibly all sorts of entities that we're unaware of, but I wouldn't categorize them as demons. You may not like them; they may be evil, but just because everyone else categorizes whatever they want as demons. Sherry's wrote, I think worship is a human thing, whether that's good or bad. I think it holds us back. Well, the Sumerians definitely made us worship. They're actually right. People are worshipping whoever, Enki, Enlil, Marduk, whoever it is. So they made us worship. So it's not the creator of everything's idea. It's theirs to make us worship them. And since then, I think you're right. It does hold us back. Swoons is sending me some lightning bolts. Shazam! Thank you, Swoons. Quinoxes wrote, I've always wondered who is your profile picture? My sister, when she was, I think, about 13, had pneumonia, and she was really bad. Apparently, we didn't realize how bad she was, and she went into some sort of coma of some description. Thank you, whoever's just given me a massive hat with a cat and hat. And she dreamt, but she says she didn't dream. She said she saw a monk walk through the bedroom holding a skull. And so she drew it at 13. And that is the same picture that I've got, that I use in my profile, because it's kind of connected to our true history as such. Whether or not she did see a monk, whether or not she was delirious, but she was only 13, so to come up with the concoction of a monk holding a skull, she would have had to have maybe seen a TV program or film that had that image for her to then produce, because that's not something you would normally produce if you've never thought of a monk holding a skull walking through your bedroom. So Ritz the Biz has wrote, is in Islam the jinns have families, etc. They can communicate with Muslim priests, etc. Yeah, I mean, when you read the descriptions of jinns, whoever you're reading will literally tell you something different. I'm not saying that Islam's wrong on that, but I'm saying certainly when I do my research on the jinns, they say all sorts of things. They say that the jinns possess a snake. They can possess, you know, and you got to ask yourself, how would the person looking at a snake know that the snake's been possessed? You wouldn't. So I think there's a lot of people throwing anything they want about the jinns because no one knows, obviously 100%. So when I did some research recently about the jinns, literally anything you can think of, someone had said the jinns can do. It was like, oh, right, forget it. It's just too many. So it's hard to sort of pin down exactly what the jinns can and can't do. So I guess the Islam might be more correct than other people knocking up their own ideas. And maybe a lot of people got the ideas from Islam. To be fair, they probably did. I mean, there's old stories, as you know, of the jinn, etc. But mostly Middle East, which makes sense because again, Middle East is where we learnt to read, write, etc. Quinoxes wrote to Leanne, what did you see? How did you manage to travel through a wormhole? And where is Hydra? Leanne's wrote, I believe I saw a snake, very large and see-through, dimensional. And then Quinoxes wrote, was this in a dream? To Leanne. Leanne's wrote, I've seen a few UFOs. Be interested to know what shapes and sizes. Quinoxes wrote to Leanne or Astral Travel. Octis wrote, do you know of any higher frequent... Oh, sorry. I was expecting it to be... Do you know of any type of freighter that you know of that could exist or does? Any type of freighter? Freighter. I'm not quite sure what that is referring to. Sorry, Octis. Well, first thing I was thinking is something like the Millennium Falcon, a freighter ship. Sorry, maybe it's me being a numpty. Leanne's wrote no and experience the talk telepathic. That's to do with her travelling. Forgive me if I call you her if you're not. It's a crazy world now where I have to apologise for. Samuel's wrote, I leave you in peace, goodbye. Thank you, Samuel, for joining. Quinoxy's asking Leanne about the telepathic. Leanne's wrote, yes, I also believe it was Satan. Ritz the Biz has wrote, I think the sky is I'm guessing that's dome because you wrote some. I think the sky's a dome. Well, the Anunnaki struggle to get through the atmosphere. Meteorites do get through the atmosphere, so it can't be a dome. And if it was a dome, why don't the military just go to the side and bash through it quietly instead of announcing that they're sending rockets up for all of us to watch and see it hit the dome? It just doesn't make sense. Leanne's right. I was taken to the underworld as well. I was walking with and there's a picture of either a lizard or a dinosaur. Nae has wrote R.I.P. Pelly. I'm guessing that's Pele, as in the footballer, maybe. Didn't he already pass? Leanne's wrote it was beautiful, similar to Earth. Seb Gon has wrote, are shadow people good or bad? So, from my understanding, now Philomena will tell you differently, but from my understanding, the shadow people, this is just my own research, the shadow people don't actually interfere with people. People see them, run like mad, and think they're evil. Hat Man, on the other side of it, might be different. But the shadow people, I think, are just echoes or future glitches or something like that that's already happened, and that's why they don't acknowledge you. Hat Man, on the other side of it, which is also a shadow figure but with a hat, that may have evil intent. So yeah, from what I've understand. Andy Spirits wrote, Linda is an amazing lady, big fan. Yeah, she is. Yeah, I've pointed out something to her once that she hadn't thought of, and she wrote back saying, I'll have to screenshot it actually. She wrote back saying words to the effect of, thank you for your genius thoughts on this. You're basically, I end up being right that she hadn't thought of. But yeah, she's amazing. Love her work. Leanne wrote, the demon turned into a little girl. And then Leanna wrote, heaven is a spaceship. See, the thing is with that is when you look at the original text where it says the stars in heaven, I think space really should be the word for heaven, not a spaceship, because then you'd have, because Enoch was looking up and said, I can see the stars in heaven. The chances of him seeing stars inside of a spaceship is pretty slim, I would have thought. Angel Blues wrote, didn't they keep seeds there and computers, etc., in case of a war or disaster? You mean in the Antarctic? Yes, yeah, they do. Sorry, my Google's just started waffling on there in the background. That's scary. Yeah, they a few places actually. I think Greenland or Iceland have also got a place where they've got every seed of the planet saved and an underground storage. So well done. Yes, you know your stuff. Ree has wrote, I love your approach because you value research and evidence first. Very, very rare these days. Keep it up. Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. It really means a lot to me saying that, because I listen to other people. You know, some of them's got millions of followers and stuff, and they just say what they want. And I can't do that because you guys would pick me up on it. So yeah, that's why. And I also try and go through every permutation in my head of an outcome. So I argue with myself sometimes, and sometimes I lose. But I'd rather lose and, you know, be right in terms of being wrong than just make up stuff. I can't do that. Based Matthew has wrote, get V, save lives, protect the NHS. Thank you. Yeah, I remember that. I remember that. And now, really, what it should have been is pay the NHS more. Don't do what they tell you because you're going to end up in problems. Everyone that I know that has had one or two of the you know what and the you know where, when they've ended up having the C word, they have been absolutely distraught with it. Whereas everyone that I know that didn't have the V word, mild cold, including myself. So I think it's, well, you know what I think if you've watched my videos or whatever. King's Alami has wrote, Deeps, how high you go. I'm guessing that's to do with the supposed dome. And that's probably depends on how high you go. But then you could, if that is the case, forgive me if I'm barking up the wrong tree, but literally then, if I said, oh well, what about, you know, the sun, is that inside the dome? Well, it depends on how far you go. Well, what about, you know, the planets that we can see in the next solar system? Well, it depends how far you go. So if that is to do with that, I'm guessing that's to do with how high you go with the balloons. That's probably what you're talking about with the rockets. Sorry, I was off on a tangent there. Yeah, well, if it's high enough to see the edge on a flat Earth, 4,000 miles, the height that you would need to see 4,000 miles would be no problem at all for the height of a rocket, but yet we can see the whole edge equal. So it still doesn't make it right. I mean, then you could say, well, what about the pictures from the ISS? And then you could argue, well, they're all CGI. And then you can't kind of win then. But if people's just going to keep saying stuff, but as it stands, the camera shots are identical, but in different locations. And again, you could just, if you think there's an ice wall and a flat edge, you could take a telescope from, if it's flat, from a building on the coast of Australia or anywhere on one of the edges, and a decent powered telescope will see the wall on a nice clear day. If we can see the freaking moon and craters and everything else through clouds, through atmosphere, then seeing straight across, you'd think you should be able to see this massive high wall that people can't get past. But yeah. Spanish Cockneys wrote, maybe we are currently living in hell and heaven awaits. If you feel that that's the way it is, then I can't argue with you. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Scrolling down. Quinoxes wrote, what do you think the Black Ops have done that has had the biggest impact? It's a good question. Go number 3 in the class for that. I think HAARP. HAARP is going to be the biggest downfall I think that we're going to face with the weather and everything else, because they can use that as the climate change excuses, which will then lead on to us being locked in, etc., etc. Lucas wrote, we were all lied to from birth. Spot on. Furitz has wrote, Black Ops is Delta Force. Well, technically Black Ops is a name for clandestine or hidden things, so it's not a particular group of people. Hillbilly has wrote, God is the oscillating energy in all things, resonating at multiple frequencies. Could be. Could be. I certainly think frequency is to do with everything. Hillbillies wrote, God is the source and you're a Jedi. Meaning, I'm guessing you're meaning we can access that source if we can. I mean, you could be right. I mean, you're probably more right than some of the other people's ideas. In my opinion, I would go more with your idea. Audrey has wrote, why can some people capture paranormal things in photographs? Well, first of all, it depends which technology you have. Back in the day, Polaroids, etc., used to be able to grab spirits really easily, whereas digital cameras, not so much. You can get obviously digital cameras that can capture the orbs, but back in the day, you used to be able to capture ectoplasm and all sorts of stuff, if you believe that those photographs were genuine. Whereas now, with digital cameras, I think they've lost that ability. Obviously, night vision's different and things like that, but as a normal camera, now there is a particular lady in America that as blokes as well, but I'm thinking of a particular lady in America that used to take pictures, and every now and then she'd get these bloody orbs in the pictures, and she was like, "Oh, it's ruined my picture, ruined my picture, ruined my picture," until she realised that they're actually. She did some research and believed that they were entities. So now she deliberately sets up her camera and she calls them and says, "If there's any entities around, please come. I want to take a picture." And apparently, she's got pictures on her website. I can't remember her name again. I did all this for my own research. I didn't think I'd ever talk to anyone. And on her website, you can probably Google, find her somehow. But on her website, she's apparently got. I didn't look myself, but she was talking on Coast to Coast, and she's got pictures of orbs where they actually have faces in the orbs. So if you, going back to your question, if you actually want them to be in your picture, obviously night time's the best time to get them because of the brightness, the sunlight doesn't affect them as much, and B, they would probably show up a little bit easier than a bright day. So yeah, so you can ask the spirit. However, whether you want to have them hanging around all day long, I probably wouldn't want that myself. User 22 has wrote, Army, yes, God's truth. Quinoxes wrote, question on X points. If we had a portal on Earth, could it come out at another place in space or just on our Earth? I don't know the answer to that. I did see. So, my claim to fame on a UFO, if you've probably heard me talk about it before, but on the top of a hotel, lying there at that little swimming pool, lying there, looking up, girlfriend was beside me, pure blue sky, Tenerife it was, absolutely pure. And I was laying there and I thought, not a bird in sight. This is my thought. And then suddenly this bloody thing appeared from nowhere, went left, and then sort of done a U-turn and went back past where it came from and went all the way off to Mount Teide, which is a volcano. At which point, as it turned, I said to the girlfriend, look, what's that, what's that, what's that? And she looked and said, oh, it's a bloody diamond-shaped UFO. And at that point, this is going back a few years, I'd never heard of a diamond-shaped UFO. So when I finally got to my phone, it was locked in the safe, I Googled diamond-shaped UFOs over Mount Teide, and there was videos of diamond-shaped UFOs over Mount Teide. So that came from nowhere. So either that created its own wormhole, or there was a wormhole there. So that's my only point that I could bring to whether or not they come from. So if it, obviously it's not one of our UFOs. So it came into Earth's. It was. Don't ask me how high it was because there's no clouds to even work out. But so it came into. I would say it came from outside of Earth's atmosphere and appeared here on Earth. But again, that could have done its own thing. But the reason why I don't think it created its own wormhole is because it had to do a U-turn basically. So I think that that wormhole that it came through is a static one in order for it to. Otherwise, it would have decided it wanted to go the other way automatically. Maybe I don't know. Not an expert on wormholes. Cherries wrote, "Are your kids breaking each other's bones?" Why Clark in the background? That's just Clark. He, I've only got the one kid here. He shouts. He's got headphones sometimes on, and he gets so excited by watching kids programs. He's 20, but he's sort of got a mental age of about 6 because there's complications at his birth. But so he's all right. That's him happy. He's not doing anything bad. CK City has wrote, they created 2 times black holes. It created a wormhole, and then they sent a particle through it. Is what I heard. All right, okay. I'm just gonna have a sip of a drink. Sorry, everybody. My mouth's really. Oh, I needed that. Okay. So they created 2 black holes. Sorry, this is going back to that wormhole. And then they sent a particle through it, is what you heard. So that must have been in the same vicinity because they wouldn't have known where the outside hole would be. Do you know what I mean? Like, if I made a pinprick here, I would have to kind of know where the second hole is, the exit, in order for me to be able to send a particle through. Otherwise, it could just be, again, a dot. So if they've managed to create a wormhole where they could literally have it in the same room and then send a particle through, that's pretty impressive. But it's possible. Top U has wrote, or it looks like Top U has wrote, I am God. I am Groot. Beowulfer has wrote, is Nibiru coming back soon? Anywhere from 200 to 900 years. Sitchin's is, I think, 700 to 900 years is when he thinks it's coming back. So we're not going to be around. Yorkshire UFO Hunters wrote, someone supposedly patented an interdimensional walkie-talkie. That's not a bad idea. Swoons as well. How Enoch feed his appetite. All How Enoch. Alpha's wrote, I like that name, Alf. I can't help but remember the TV series. I'll have to download that. I'll have to watch that somehow. Hey, what about the Anunnaki movie? I've been a bit lax. The funding people weren't going to see us properly until after New Year. My producer's already met with them twice. They are interested, so I've got to pull my finger out and do some work after Christmas to get things ready. It's a pack. In other words, a package. They need the package ready. I've been really, really lax the last few months. Fake has wrote, I have my own demons, my crippling alcoholism. Are you one of these bottle collectors, empty bottle collectors? Rodney Charles wrote, what's the real version of Christianity based on King James Version? Would that be the Masonic Bible? I'm not an expert on religion because it's a man-made construct, because the Anunnaki never had religion. I don't follow that. Elaine, if she's still here, has studied many different religions in depth, not just studied them, but she actually became each one of them, if she doesn't mind me telling you that. And she's actually ended up admitting that she believes that the Anunnaki now, the actual, the texts are now actually the texts that the Bible copied from, which is really not, good that someone like her has actually took the time to read and learn and everything. So I can't answer that side of it, the Christianity side, etc., because I kind of switch off when it comes to religion. That's why when I put something up or someone talks to me and then they quote oh, but in King James version 12, whatever, I sort of say sorry. I go back to the original texts. Sorry, don't hate me. So yeah, I can't argue that, I'm afraid. Rodney's wrote King James Masonic Bible. Would thy be the actual Christian version or not? I don't. It's a man-made thing, so I really can't answer that. It really is a man-made thing because we've got the original text where we get told to worship individual Anunnaki, not a whole religion because of one particular god. So, so it's definitely a man-made thing. Swoons has wrote the hooded monk is a Welsh ghost. It's very common. Oh right, okay, okay. Yeah, I've not looked into monks. Thank you for that. I will tell my sister that. Fakers wrote the Islamic Bible is the closest we have to the true Bible. Um, Sorry, there was a poll come up, something to do with Clark. I didn't. I just pressed X. Sorry, I didn't know what that was. Didn't read it properly. Sorry. Uh, Zoo or Zoo has wrote. Thanks for sharing. No problem at all. I could have been watching my Smallvilles, which I will have to probably. I'm going back through the old Smallvilles. They're really good when you watch them all in one go. Lewis has wrote. Hello everyone, glad to be here. Hi Lewis. Zoe's wrote, is it true that spirits like attaching to shiny objects or crystals? Is there any proof of this? Well, the logic would be they can manipulate crystals because of the frequency, same as how they move glass around. So if you used an upside down glass as a Ouija board on the table, they'll be able to move that no problem at all, and that's how they can make things fly off walls, generally pictures and glasses and stuff like that. So the logic from them wanting to be near a crystal of any kind would be that they would be able to probably match the frequency. Now, inhabiting objects, that seems to be the jinn. So the jinn are renowned for attaching themselves to objects such as the lamp in Genie. So the genie was a jinn from Aladdin story, and actually attached himself to an object such as a lamp. It wasn't a rubbing lamp; it was actual. From the description, it was a proper lamp. But yeah, so the jinns are the ones that inhabit dolls and inanimate objects more than the other light energy beings. ADZ wrote Lucid Dreaming. ADZ wrote Age of the Universe is really 14 billion years old. I couldn't argue with you because I have no knowledge how old it would really be. The John Cooper Show, do you believe there were actually dinosaurs? I do. First, from a logic point of view, is that people all around the world, not mainstream archaeologists, but just general people like me and you, do come across these massive bones. Now, I know people say, oh, well, they're chicken bones, and that's why they're hiding them. Why would you hide a chicken bone that's a giant chicken? And then make up to be some other creature? And then you've got the Ica stones, which there's 40 odd thousand of them, which actually depicts humans and dinosaurs together. And some of those dinosaurs that they drew carved into the stones, we didn't know about until after we found the stones. And then we found the skeletons of those dinosaurs. Then you've got the Stegosaurus on the Mayan pyramid. Now, mainstream say that's not a Stegosaurus because of the snout of it. Now, you look at all the dogs. You look at a pug, and then you look at a Great Dane. Would you say that they're both dogs? You probably would say no, they're not the same dog. On a skeleton format, you would say no, that pug is some sort of weird small creature, and the other one's a massive Great Dane with a big long snout. Now, do you know how many heads they found of, full skeleton head of a Stegosaurus? 5. So when they turn around and say no, that's not the same head as a Stegosaurus, therefore there's no way dinosaur would have been alive for someone to have carved it. That's their argument. It's not, the snout isn't the same. So if you found 5 dog snouts around the world, now we're not allowed to dig in near that pyramid, so that we could end up finding a skeleton of a Stegosaurus with that same small snout, but we're not allowed to dig. So that's another reason. Then you've got the Acambro figurines, which were found, I think, in Mexico, which were 33,000 of them, hand made, which again have dinosaurs with them and people at the same time. And now you also got to go back to the logic of the first person that thought, do you know what? I'm going to knock up some fake dinosaurs, and then I'm going to telegraph. Now this was done back before telephones were invented, so it would have been telegraphs. So they would have had to have telegraphed all the archaeologists around the world and said, hey, do you know what? I've got a really great idea. Let's make some fake bones, and if you see any giant bones, we'll just, we'll pretend that they're dinosaurs. Even though technically humans have only been here for a very short period of time, and we have got fossils of other creatures. But it just doesn't make sense that there wasn't dinosaurs. Joe has wrote, yes, dinos were a reptilian offspring. Fakers wrote, the V word has unalived more people than the C word itself. I like that. Yes, I hear what you're saying. And then ADZ wrote, was the C word even real? I think it was a flu that was manipulated with in order for us to feel, and of course they ramped up the lies. I mean, who remembers pictures of people in China on the street dying? Do you remember? I do. They're saying, oh wow, all these people are dying. We're going. Of course, when we got it over here, not one picture, and it's all because the media is controlled to tell us what they want us. Yeah. So anyway, Fakers wrote, widely lied about, and the propaganda from the USA. I won't name the company, but yes, probably get told off for naming the company. Starts with P and a H. John Cooper wrote, dinosaurs, did they exist? Yeah, I think look into the Ica stones and the Acambro figurines, and your mind will just be blown. And if you think they're fake, bearing in mind it would have took someone 15 years on their own to carve those stones, and that's one every 10 minutes. So, and to what, sell them? To who? Why not make 1 or 2 and then sell them? Don't do 40-odd thousand of them. So just watch my videos and I prove that they're real as opposed to where people say they're not. Beowulf has wrote, what was in the bags the Anunnaki held? I have no idea. I would probably say jewelry, possibly. I don't know really what else they would carry. Keys to the car. I don't know. I think the device on their wrist is a communication device. I don't think it's a clock or of any kind. That's just my take on it. But yeah, the handbags. Egypt had exactly the same handbags, but smaller, because obviously they weren't as big as the Anunnaki. But yeah, I think it was just a bag holding stuff in it. Maybe the pine cone. It was probably holding the pine cone that they used. Just scrolling down. Kenneth wrote, yeah, definitely man icefall. No problem if you could just show me a picture of it. Someone must have a picture with there's 9 billion of us. There's millions of boats and probably millions of planes. So someone's got a picture of it. So if you could just show me a picture of it anywhere other than the North and South Pole. ADZ wrote, chemtrails, is climate change real? I think chemtrails are not to do with climate. I think that from what I've understood is to do with the part of the depopulation program still. Overlord, what is your views on Tartaria and the mud flood? Very briefly, oh sorry, you then wrote, was Tartaria millennial reign of Christ? In other words, history is a lie. Well, Tartaria was an empire run by the Mongolians about 500 years ago. That was the actual original. The word Tartaria come from. The mudslides, I no. Yes, there is mud, and yes, they've gone over buildings, but no, there was no technically advanced race that we all forgot because of a bit of mud flooding over the buildings 200 years ago. It just doesn't compute with me. I have looked into it, but sorry if I sound bad not going into details, but the people that show you the pictures of these buildings that's covered over, some of them were actually carved into stone. I know that for a fact. And they use those pictures to say, hey, look, everything was covered over. No. When you lie to try and prove your point, then you're on a losing foot with me. So, no. Phil's wrote, are you familiar with energy vortex? I've experienced telepathy with my SO next to one. Any ideas? Not sure what SO is next to one. Sorry, Phil. You got me on that energy vortex. I probably wouldn't have said energy vortex. Chakra, maybe. But I experienced telepathy. I'm sorry, I'm just going through. No, I have done telepathy. I know you're going to say, oh, God, he's seen UFOs, he's done telepathy. But I did with a previous girlfriend. She had a brain tumour and ended up having operation on it. I don't know whether this had anything to do with it, but I would say things, or she would say things just as I was thinking them and vice versa. And eventually one day I said, look, this is just too ridiculous. It was literally 10 times a day we was coming out with total random stuff that we both suddenly said at the same time, or whatever. So I said to her, right, okay, let me try and guess or work out telepathy if this is real. So I said, right, think of a card out of a deck of cards. And she said, 7 of diamonds, I think it was. And I said 7 of diamonds. And so that was the first one, right? And I went through various different things. And I can't remember exactly what things I've done, animals and stuff, but pretty much other than the animal where I said frog. No, I said rabbit, but she was thinking of a frog, and she was in her head doing the jumping motion of a frog. But I said rabbit. That was the only one I got wrong, and I think we did about 5 or 6 times. Then finally, the last one, but by then I was knackered. I said, "Oh, let's do people because it could be anyone, an actor or something." And she said it. I did try it a couple of times, got it wrong. But so I do think telepathy is absolutely a real thing, just from my own experience. ADZ wrote to Overlord, Tartaria was not advanced. At least that's what I think. Yeah, I mean, it's all because I think they found this Tesla coil that they said, oh, it's a Tesla coil, therefore it's an advanced race that lived, and instead of just being some sort of hillbilly type person out back that come up with the idea before Tesla did, they've attributed this one device. And I know they say, oh, well, there's mobile phones. No, there's not mobile phones. Back in them days. Chaos wrote, wish it was that easy for me. Deanna's wrote, what that happened to my son's picture. There's an orb with a clear face. Oh, bloody hell, wow. Okay, hi Diana. Yeah, you might want to look up this person. There's more than one person out there, but this particular female was on Coast to Coast. But I know there's other people that do it, deliberately take pictures of orbs. So I don't know the significance of the ones with the face, whether or not it's a loved one or whatever, but certainly worth looking into if you've got a picture, unless you recognise the face. But yeah, interesting. The other person that takes these pictures might know more about it by now. Chaos has wrote, I've got a couple of good pics of orbs, but never faces I could see. Wow, you guys. I mean, I don't think I've. My mum. Oh, that sounds like me, doesn't it? My sister showed me a picture of a video actually of my mum. I think I've still got it. Maybe I'll put it on TikTok one day. And literally, they were sitting there in this cafe, and this, but no one could see the orb. But this little, I don't know, it must have been probably the size of a large marble. So it wasn't a tennis ball size. It was really small, and it just flew around my mum. It was crazy, but they didn't see it when they was filming. Uh, and then Cherries wrote to Diana, our brains automatically pick out faces, which is true. There is that phenomenon, isn't there? I mean, I've done it, with old wallpaper before. I used to see faces. And then Diana's wrote to Sherry, well, in my video you can see it for yourself. I would love to see it. Time check, thank you, Jane, is 8 p.m. So still 20 minutes behind. Michael O'Neill, no relation to Colonel Jack O'Neill from Stargate. I see a black mist coming up from the bottom of my bed. I jumped and think it was on fire. Nothing there. Okay, so when a loved one has passed, a lot of stories of people seeing mist or smoke coming in or out the garden, out the kitchen, through the walls, stuff like that. So the only thing I can say is, had anyone that you was aware of passed fairly recently to that event? ADZ wrote, what was the fastest speed that aliens can travel in their craft? It's a good question. There was someone did do a test with, well, with the description of that they had from UFOs. They worked out that a saucer-shaped one could go around the Earth in. Give me a sec. I'm trying to remember. I think it was about 3 minutes. So it's not light speed, basically. But then again, that's the person that did that was basing it off of what data he could get off of those craft flying around. Now that may not, they may not be punching it. They may be, warp 1 instead of warp 9. So you could say the slowest that they go around Earth, the disc-shaped ones, is 3 minutes. Michael O'Neill has wrote, what do you think of the Tatarian theory? Hopefully you heard me earlier. I hate talking about it because it's just, there's nothing to grab onto. I did actually ask on a post, I put a post up saying, okay, show me the evidence of tech. And all I kept getting back was people saying, go to this YouTube channel, go to that YouTube channel, see his pictures. So then I knocked up a picture of a mobile phone. I said, oh, here it is. People were like, oh, yeah, oh, you fooled me. Because I actually thought it was an old mobile phone from Tataria. That's how easy it was to fool people. Just scrolling down. Overlords wrote, Christ returned 70 AD, ruled the world for 1,000 years, known as Tataria. We vary end revelations. When you say sorry, I'm just curious. When you say he returned in 70 AD and ruled, where was he? Because Tataria was in the Mongolian Empire area. So I'm sorry. I'm not. It sounds like I'm going to be rude, but I'm not. I'm kind of thinking, how come, and I'm not religious, but how come you're the only person that's knows he came back? Because I've never heard it before from anyone else. Sorry, I'm just trying to get my head around that. Because for 1,000 years, someone would have said, you know what? He had a coffee shop over in Mongolia, and but I've not heard anything like that. Sorry, I'm not trying to knock you. I'm just saying it's really difficult for me to grasp. Fakers wrote no, but you should start. Sorry, chatting to someone else. Michaels wrote, Anunnaki movie would be great. So many people interested in the subject. Yeah, yeah. I don't know if you've seen the trailer. Mike, if you haven't, go to AnunnakiFilm.com. We're trying to get that made, and it would be series of 4 films. If it does, a little icon with a face with glasses says Lord Hanuman is real. Trust me. I have no idea who Lord Hanuman is. Sorry. ADZ wrote evidence. I'm not sure what that's referring to. Michaels wrote, I can't understand how the Ancient Alien series never mentioned geopolymers. I mean, it's a fairly new, in my opinion, it's a fairly new theory. And I say theory because, there's people out there that say, oh, the Great Pyramid was built with geopolymers, which then means you would have had to pour it into molds. And anyone that's done any research knows that all the blocks on the Great Pyramid are actually different sizes. So you would have had, it just makes illogical sense to have 2.3 million molds or one mold that keeps moving and then wait 2 weeks for it to cure, etc., etc. And the reason why I say that is because obviously the Great Pyramid we've got the quarry where they literally cut the same, the size blocks out, which we can see the actual cut marks of what's left of the block area. But there are people out there, such as Ancient Architects, who believes that, for example, not Pumapunku, what's it called? Göbekli Tepe, the blocks there were geopolymer. And I sort of said to him, well, you do realise that they did heat blocks. We've got evidence of them heating blocks because the bulges on the blocks on Göbekli Tepe made people think, oh, it was, poured, and therefore when you put the next brick on, it squished out a bit. The problem with that is if you didn't have something holding it still and you put another block on top, the one underneath could have just squashed out and just fell to the ground, or burst or anything. But that didn't seem to happen. So by having the weight of the one above, they'd be really lucky that the one underneath doesn't, because if it's still hot enough for it to bow and have a bulge on it, then it's hot enough to also probably, break off a bit and drip down. So, but what they did do on certain places around the world with their technology is they heated the blocks to make them melt into each other as opposed to pouring into each other. But yeah, so that's my take on it. I'm not saying they didn't use them, but polymers. But I think certain places are still normal blocks. ADZ has wrote, is oil really running out? I'm not an expert. Yeah. I mean, the thing is with the oil is obviously the energy companies, certainly here in the UK, thank you, Sean, has put the prices up. Now they're doing that ready, in my opinion, for when the petroleum companies start losing out, because obviously they're going to be losing out if we're not using their petroleum anymore. Now, are they running out? I mean, they're having to frack places, etc., to keep finding more and more oil, which is understandable because you probably will run out at some point. So yeah, I would say they would run out at some point because obviously there's only so many places they can keep finding, and luckily, the areas that they find so far. But it's a very expensive thing to keep finding, whereas wind turbines, etc., to produce our energy, and then they can just bump the price up of our energy without having to keep finding a new source for it. So yeah, I would say eventually it would run out. I don't know how many barrels left they can produce, but Michael's right. Oil is not running out. The powers that be are rotating us, creating globally bankruptcy, rationing us. Sorry. Yeah, I mean they could be for sure. Michael O'Neill's right. I never trusted government-funded scientists, archaeologists. Shadow Warriors back. I'm back. How's you? I'm still here. I will have to shoot soon, even though uh, Damon's wrote, or Damien has wrote, thoughts on Nibiru. Yeah, real planet. Got the text to say that they had a shrine here on Earth for Nibiru. The actual word is Nibiru. So, yeah, I mean, the creation story talks about it as well. So definitely a planet that had the Anunnaki on, in my opinion. Shadow Warriors, right? Was dinosaurs real or not? I'm late on the conversation. Yeah, there's no reason why they wouldn't be here. To make all these archaeologists get paid to make up fake dinosaurs is pretty. Because if you was one of these fake making a fake dinosaur, you wouldn't leave it. You would just continuously, if it was me, and I knew that the object of the game is to make fake dinosaurs, I'd be knocking one out every week, because you'd probably be paid for it. But yeah, so, and obviously there's the ones where they have found T Rex. There was what was her name? They named it a female name. They found a full T Rex skeleton, and inside that the bone still had the jelly stuff, which they couldn't work out because, hey, this should have been millions of years old, and therefore it shouldn't have be the jelly type stuff still in the bone. But of course, if you know your history, you know that the dinosaurs did not all die out 65 million years ago, which would explain why they have the jelly stuff in it. Hi, Philomena, thank you very much. Ikrams wrote the legendary football star Pele has passed away at age 2. Oh, right, that's why. Yeah, I thought you might have, when that was the only Pele I know. Ah, yeah, I remember him from The Great Escape, I think it was the film. Hillbillies wrote, God is the oscillating energy in all things resonating at multiple frequencies. Michael O'Neill has wrote Nibiru. That was 2 years ago. Had it arrived? Has it arrived yet? No, I mean Nibiru's not going to be here anywhere from 200 to 900 years, so we're all good. Shadow Warriors wrote, what do you think of CERN? I think they're up to no good. You don't spend billions just to do a god particle that once you've done it, there's nothing you can do with it. I think they're up to no good in the long run. Hillbillies wrote, we came here for Earth, positive collection vibration. Michaels wrote, what do you think of Elon? I just got my Twitter account back after 2 years. I think he knows a hell of a lot more than he lets on. I really, really do. And I think he's probably been told not to say things, but he's trying. I actually, I may be wrong, but I think he's one of the good guys. Only from the things I've seen. Obviously, you guys might know differently, but I think he knows a lot and bites his tongue. If you ever watch him when he starts talking about things, he really holds back, and has to think how to say words and stuff. Even about simulation, us being in a simulation and stuff, is very, very cautious when he talks about these things. Sherry's wrote to Shadow Warrior, I think CERN is a front for all the elite to scare us. Yeah, I think that. I mean, I've heard stories that they've opened portals and they've had dinosaurs come through and people have died and all kinds of stuff. But whatever it is, it's they're never going to tell us. I don't think. Freestyle Football has wrote, if the Earth come from other plays where bone from dinosaurs is, then they did not walk on Earth. Sorry, I'm trying to read it. If the Earth KOM from other players, where the bone from dinosaurs is they did not walk on the earth. Sorry, I'm struggling with that. But basically, not like I was saying earlier, normal people have found bones. Kids have found dinosaur bones on beaches and stuff. So I can't imagine an archaeologist thinking, I'm going to go and stick a big bone that I've already found because it's a genuine bone and put it on the beach for a kid to find or someone to, just yeah. I think dinosaurs were real. Um, just scrolling down. Sherry's wrote the bags had anointing oil in them, just like priests do today. Yeah, you could be right. Actually, they did definitely they wrote about oils a lot. So you could be right. Maybe it's sort of sunscreen back then because obviously they're not used to our sun. So yeah, it's a good point, Sherry. Go to number 2 in the class for that. Michaels wrote, UK has put migrants into every hotel in Britain. Just found out they are UN soldiers. Question mark. I had heard that. I had heard that the people that's coming over are going to help the when we get to the point of lockdowns again. That they're going to use these people that's coming over to help as mercenaries to stop us, so we won't blame the military and the government. Will be blaming those people instead, and I think they're probably going to end up being patsies, just like the poor people that got told that they was helping on the 7/7 bombings, which were patsies for sure. If you don't know anything about the UK 7/7 bombings, go watch Ripple Effect. You'll find out that it was so bad. Michael's wrote, thanks for your answer. You're more than welcome. Everything that I say is just my own thing, so obviously please do your own research. Shadow Warriors wrote, chakras are spirit spiral energy. You could be right. I haven't heard that before, but you could be right. Lewis has wrote, what's your thoughts on remote viewing? I mean, the military's done it. They then stopped, and then they carried on according to Major Ed Dames, who was one of the first people to actually teach people in the military how to remote view. So, for them to have the program running for 15 years, I think it was, and then pretend that they've stopped it and then changed the name of the project to a different name and carried on, there must be some validity to it. Um, 15 years, long time to keep going at something if you're getting zero results. So I think, yeah, definitely the remote viewing seems to work in some respect. Shadow Warriors, right? I definitely think there is some kind of telepathy. So, yeah, I do. Michael's wrote, MI5 put out an advert for telephonist, psychic who can see 7 weeks into the future. Laugh out loud. Yeah, I've not heard of that, but the MI5 are the people, in my opinion, that pay the people to make the fake crop circles. And they also are right next to a university, and they snap up some of the top people from the university to do bits and pieces. Great. In fact, some of the newer people that do the crop circles were in the same university that the MI5 snap up, and next thing you know is they've now got a flat being paid for by an unknown source while they go out making these crop circles. Yeah, you guys figure. Great. Full Marys, right? How far do you have the candle from the mirror in the dark? I'll see many. I mean, they didn't actually say the story how far, but I would imagine probably a foot or two. I've never tried it. There's no way I want to try it. The last thing I want to do is see a bloody face in the smoke in a mirror. But let me know how you get on. Sherry's wrote, I had to switch my mum's machines off. I didn't know if I was right to do it. Oh, I'm guessing that's to do with a medical thing. If it is, I'm really sorry to hear that. No right or wrong answer to that, is there? Um, Ideally, in an ideal world, if you had time to think about it, going to see a medium or spiritualist before making that sort of decision would have been a good thing. Obviously, your mind probably wasn't with it. Sherry's wrote, she was sat smiling on the bed when I got home. Ah, that's nice. That's nice. Yeah, remember that. That's a nice thing. Frank's wrote, for some reason there's a lot of interference on your live. Just checked others who are live and none. Probably being blocked, maybe, I don't know. Michael's wrote, just walked the desert for 40 days and 40 nights. Today he would be getting away from mainstream media. Keith has wrote, big fan of your hard work. Oh, thank you, Keith. Keith has wrote, sound, frequency and light. I couldn't agree more. Keith has wrote, all the way from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Do you know, I was going there once, but I took the wrong turn. Yeah, you get it. Wrong turn at Albuquerque. Michael's wrote, it's okay, you've convinced me. Gizaby has wrote, energy is free if you can tap into it, but there's people that have been bumped off for tapping into it. Philomena's joined. If anyone is interested in blood groups and blood types, and I'm not just talking about medical side, I'm talking about the ESP that comes with it and all this kind of stuff. Trust me, follow Philomena. She is an amazing. I've had her on my lives before, and she blows my mind with RH negative stuff and everything. So please, Philomena, her name is on the live chat here, little blue symbol, or Blue Moon Sigma. She's the one that's just sent me a whatever it was that's just popped up there. I can't praise her enough. Trey has wrote, that was fake. Dinosaurs are definitely fake. Could you just explain why the first person come up with the idea to make a fake dinosaur and then tell all archaeologists around the world to make fake dinosaur bones, and then tell the people, that individuals like me and you that might come across a dinosaur bone, that it's not really a dinosaur? You won't be able to answer that because it just doesn't make sense. Leo's wrote, oil is not a fossil fuel itself, it's renewable hydraulic cushion. I guess that's because it's between the layers of Earth. Michael's wrote, some say they found giant bones and made up the rest. Were there giants? I think they're definitely giants, yeah, definitely. Watch my videos, I've done videos on giants and where they were around the world, and obviously you've got the Kandahar story as well, which is very recent. Dr. J wrote, laugh out loud jelly stuff. Yeah, I don't know the name of it inside the dinosaur bone. Forgive me. It's a jelly substance. I don't know what it's called. Philomena's wrote, no, giants are definitely a real thing. There is evidence of them all over the world. Again, Philomena's not just knowledgeable on the blood stuff, she is knowledgeable on a lot of stuff. Dragsters wrote jelly bone. It's the substance in it that I remember seeing the actual video of the woman touching it, and it was jelly-ish. I don't know what to say to him, I'm not a doctor. Damn it, I'm not a doctor, Jim. Michael's wrote, Nibiru, phew, that was close. Yeah, you're right for now. Do you mean marrow? More than likely, yes. Like I say, I'm not a doctor. Philomena's wrote, Elon is a white hat. I'm not sure what that terminology means. Probably working for the government, maybe. Dr. J wrote, he holds back because our brains are too slow. That's probably to do with Elon talking. Sherry's given me a little dinosaur, bless her. Thank you, Sherry. Leo's wrote, all the Schwabs wiring up our brains. He's one of them, sorry. Okay, I mean, like I say, I don't hunt out his videos and follow him, and I'm from the UK, so I only see YouTube videos of him occasionally. Michael's wrote, did Elon ask that question, laugh out loud? I'm behind, so I don't know what that question was. Sorry, Dr. J has right. I've seen dino footprints in rock now. Yeah, there has been. Yeah, again, who would make that up for the fun of it? Philomena's wrote, "Do you think the Watcher and the Anunnaki are allies or enemies? Is either or both involved now?" So, the Watchers were the Agigi. If you Google what the translation of the word Agigi, I can't ask Google behind me because I can't even know if I'm pronouncing it right. Some people call it Igigi, but type in Igi, and then what does it mean, and it will come up with the watching or something like that. So they were, from what I understand, they were the younger Anunnaki, which is why it makes sense that they were the sons of God, which stole the woman when they came down. And they were invited down because of Marduk's wedding. So the Agigi twice had issues with the Anunnaki. Once when Anzu was there, and they had a space battle, and then the second time when they came down from Mars and took women, and then had more fights with the Anunnaki. But they were all Elohim. It's just they were younger ones, and I say younger, A, because of the word the sons, and B, because the images of them generally don't have the same length of beard or they're clean shaven, which makes me think that they were younger. Michael's wrote Transition. Not sure what that was for. Pota has wrote, "Have you read the book of the Navigator across the ice wall?" No, because I don't read science fiction. Because whoever wrote that book, I could write a book. Trust me, I could quite easily write a book about something and pretend that I'm a navigator. But the only ice wall he would have flown across would have been North or South Pole. Did he say where he crossed it? Did he say it was the back of Australia? No. He probably would have been vague. You know why he would have been vague? Because obviously someone with a boat would have went, right, I'm going there. And of course people's got boats. People sail around the world all the time. And if this is the only person that's actually come across the ice wall, did you see where the alarm bells start ringing? How come he's flown the navigator, the one navigator, the only person that ends up writing a book about it and not got warned off, that apparently they get warned off? Alarm bells, no, do you not see the... No, maybe it's just me then. Michael's wrote, "Have a look at Paul Cook YouTube and his underground tunnels, one leading from Malta to Liverpool." Are you on about sort of military tunnels? I'm aware that they have got them all over the place now. Or is this sort of like just a tunnel that they found that's already there that wasn't created by the military? Michael's wrote, "Got to go, see you later." Thank you, Michael, for very much for coming. Deeka's wrote, "Hey, lovely, I adore listening to you." 8:40 p.m. 8:40. So you're as an hour in front of me. No, I'm confused. No, you was probably UK then. Must be. Sorry, probably 8 minutes ago. Thank you, Deke. It's very nice of you to say that. Angel has wrote, "You know what is amazing? The fact that all the technology began after they started studying the pyramids." Sorry, I'm just going to plug the phone in. I didn't expect to be on here so long. Sorry, one sec. Let me just plug the phone in. Right, okay. That was like 8%. We done it. We saved just in time. Flash, we only had 8%. Flash, ah! Yeah, I'll shut up now. After the pyramids, you could say that, but you could probably also say after the Industrial Revolution. You could probably say after the Wright brothers. You could sort of, I don't know. I'm just saying you could say any point is when the technology. I mean, I would say after the Roswell incident is when technology jumped leaps and bounds, but that would be because of the back engineering of their craft. Rewu has wrote, "Can you talk about Buddha and enlightening?" I don't know much about Buddha. there's probably better people out there. The only thing I would say, because I have looked into Buddhism, the only thing I would say is everything goes back to the energy orbs trying to gain wisdom, to move on up. So I think Buddhism has kind of got it wrong to a point where they think that they're going to evolve up, when really it's not them, it's the entity that joins with them that needs to evolve to get up to the next plane of existence, become the spirit guides and so on, and then move on up throughout the different planes of existence. So I think the poor people that give their lives sitting there praying and going, I think they've got it wrong, because they're not gonna be moving on up, which is a shame. But yeah, Jules has wrote, have you ever encountered any of these beings you speak of? I hate saying this, because again, it's me. I was in Tunisia, business meeting, second day there, in a hotel on my own, and I went to bed, and then my phone went 12 o'clock. Looked at the time, 12 o'clock. It was my line producer. I was to do with a film. My line producer sent me a message. I cursed and said, "You sod, what are you waking me up for? Send me a message." Then I put the phone down, and then I remember hearing my own voice saying, "Please leave me alone." 3 times I said that. "Please leave me alone." And then I opened one of my eyes, and I could see what I thought was a very small, well, grey, basically. It was dark, it was night time. Right beside my bed, right by my arm. And I tried to move, couldn't move at all, couldn't move my arm. My arm, I knew, was off the edge of the bed, right beside this thing. That, anyway, I kind of looked over to the end of the bed, thought I saw another one, and then I was really trying to move and everything, nothing happened. And then the first one that was near my arm walked to the other one. They both walked round a corner where the toilet would have been. And as soon as they walked out round a corner, my arm sprung up. Kid you not, my arm sprung up as soon as that happened. And I thought to myself, well, I jumped. The first thing I'd done was jumped up, sat up on my bed. I knew they'd obviously gone, because my arm, I could move again. So I looked at my phone, and it was 12:02. So, when I read the message at 12 o'clock, it could have been 12:59 when I put the phone down. I just saw the 12. Doesn't show the seconds on my phone back then. And literally when I picked my phone up, so it could have only been a minute. So for me to have got into an REM sleep within possibly a minute, be paralysed, have a dream about something, then when the dream ended, I could then move my arm, spring it back up as if I was really trying to move it anyway. I don't know. So yes, I could have, but because I've been into this for all my life, it could have just been an overactive imagination. Because I expect, if I was going to see anything, I would expect to see a grey, because I researched into abductions and all this kind of stuff. So it would make sense that if I just, So that's my claim to fame on that. But I don't know whether it was true or not. It really happened, but it's never happened since. And the fact that I was hearing myself talk, and when I researched into what people hear, what people think and everything else, the same thing happened. They said that they could hear themselves talk, which was a really weird thing. Because I remember thinking to myself, why am I saying, "Please leave me alone"? So it was like a split personality at that point. Haven't had a split personality since, have we? No. So yeah. Philomena's wrote, "I'm currently on TikTok, but will be soon announcing a Discord and Patreon channel, and looking to more lives with you and others. Almost done reorganising, setting up." I think if anyone should follow Philomena, anyone should follow anyone, Philomena is the person. She's so knowledgeable on so many things, but the blood stuff is just out of this world. So absolutely, I'm more than happy to help in any way, Philomena. Ryan's wrote, can you change your frequency to jump dimensions? Well, there's a person called, I can never remember his name. Oh, it's almost on the tip of my tongue. He goes on Coast to Coast a lot. He talks very quick. Old guy. He's done CDs. I came across him the other day again. I was flicking through YouTube videos. I can't remember his name. Anyway, he does these CDs where he tells you how to relax, etc., to be able to jump from one dimension to another. And then what happens is your consciousness, in other words, your spirit or whatever, jumps, because obviously physically you can't. So the only thing that probably could would be the spirit that's with you. So that jumps from one dimension to another, and then the one that you've jumped to, that consciousness goes into your body. So, for example, if there is this is his version. Oh, his name almost took my tongue. Can't remember his name. Oh, sorry, I'm still trying to remember. No, it's gone. So he says that if, for example, you're on a bad path on your life and you want to change it, you can do these exercises that he sells, that you can then switch to a better position. In other words, a alternate reality that's you're now maybe slightly financially better off, etc. Now you could say, well, that's all sounds, you know, a bit high in the sky, but then you have the stories of people where they're driving along and they see a diner every single day of their life as they drive along the road, and then one day there's a bloody house there, and then they knock on the door and say, how the hell did this house get built in one day? And the person says, no, the house has been here for years. So then, thank you, Elaine. So then you think, okay, did they jump? Did they do what this guy said happens? Now, he did say that you may have to do it several times because the one that you jump into might not be as good as the one you're in now. And, it kind of feels cheating, because if that's the case, then you are still pushing you into another place, back into the one that you're in. So you're not really gaining, even though you are, but you're kind of cheating yourself in another dimension by pushing that one back into a crappier position. But anyway, so yeah, what's his name? If I remember it, I'll do a video on my Patreon. So not Patreon, on TikTok. So just it's on the tip of my tongue. So yeah, just follow me if you are not already, if you're interested to know who that was. Yeah, it's gone. Deekers wrote, fossils are not bones. Fossils are casts of bones. All dinosaur bones would have decomposed. Unless they've still got the marrow in them, in which case they haven't decomposed. In which case the dinosaurs are not as old as we're led to believe. In which case the Ambro figurines, the Iconstones, the footprints that walk along with man, dinosaur footprints and man, are not that old, and therefore they didn't decompose, and therefore they are bones. That would make sense to me. Angel has wrote, it's bone marrow, the jelly. Thank you very much. Sounds nicer calling it jelly. Thank you, though. Cloud Gazers wrote, there's a carving of a dinosaur on Angkor Wat Temple in Cambodia. Yes, it was the Stegosaurus. Is that the same one? Did I say, I said Maya, didn't I? I think it was the Cambodian one. If that's the same one, yeah, I think it was Cambodia. Yeah, forgive me if it was the same one. Deeks wrote, so finding Martor in a dinosaur bone is fake unless it was frozen for 65 million years. Unless it didn't die out that far back. I mean, bear in mind the Bible talks about the behemoth, which described as basically a Brachiosaurus or a Diplodocus or a Brontosaurus, one of those type of dinosaurs, by quadrupedal dinosaurs, if that's how you pronounce it. Ryan's wrote, what medical technology are they hiding? It's a loaded question, isn't it? They can cure cancer. Um, uh, they can de-age. Um, replace limbs. These are all things that happens in Area 51. They had 7 levels the last time I was aware of it. They can also, I don't know whether now they can do this, but I know aliens can do this. They can take your soul and your spirit, light energy being, and put it into a younger body. Which, if you go by Corey Good, that's technically what they do with him. When he supposedly did his 20 and back on Mars, 20-year service, and then was not regressed. His consciousness spirit orb was put into a younger cloned body that they had from when he first was taken there, and then he was teleported back in time. So yeah, definitely a lot of technology they've got that they can do all sorts of stuff with now. Jay has wrote, "Good morning, buddy. Good morning to you too." Michael's back again. "I wish technology was better. I've got no picture." I don't. Yeah, I don't. If you're on about my picture in the background, I'd rather people listen to. No one wants to see another Chris Hemsworth looking at you. You don't want to see me. I look a bit like Chris Hemsworth. I'm joking. So, all the women was like, "Ooh." Michael's wrote, batteries." Yeah, on my phone. Yeah. Plugged it in now. Ria's wrote, "Oh, interesting. Thought you'll have something interesting on Buddhism." Yeah, I not much really. I did do on my Patreon page. I've done a video called "Everything You Need to Know About Spirits," and I use Buddhism quite a lot in that, because a lot of what they say is very close to what actually happens, but they get in terms of reincarnation and stuff. But I think they just got a bit mixed up along the line. But they're one of the closest that I've come across in terms of a religion that has it almost right in terms of spirits and stuff. Deacons wrote, "Do our higher selves exist alongside us, or do our energy orbs exist across more than one place?" Really good question. Go to number 1 in the class for that. So, from what I understand, so imagine a drop of water that's come from the ocean. So that drop of water is still connected to that ocean. That drop of water is then split up into at least 6 smaller droplets, which are all connected to each other. That's your soul group. Those 6 are your soul group. But those 6 are still connected to the ocean. So when the entity joins with you, those other 5 will end up being your friend, your cat, your postman, someone that interacts with you, your dad, your mum, your sister, someone that interacts with you in your life that you're going through. And then the next life, you could now be their parent, and they could now be the child, etc. So the question you asked, do our energy orbs exist across more than one place? From what I understand, and this is how remote viewing works, is yes, they connect on a quantum level to everything else. So they can connect to their soul group, they can connect to the ocean, if you call it that, which could be space itself. It could be air. I don't know. I don't think anyone's ever answered that, or probably will answer it, but I do think they're all connected. And I think that's how a remote viewer works, where they concentrate on a series of figures, numbers, which would be a location, longitude and latitude, and excuse me, and they can actually see even in the past. Now, obviously, humans don't have the ability to really see in the past. We're lucky if we can get through the day. So clearly it would be the entity that's joined with us, in my opinion, that has the ability to look backwards And if that's connected to everything, such as the source, which is what aliens call it, then technically the answer to your question is they are more in more than one place. Now, when you die and you're in control of that orb, and you talk to a spiritualist or a medium, that they tell the medium that they can see, forwards, backwards, left, right, up, down, any angle, any time, which then means that if they can communicate with another orb while they're inside you and ask that orb to go backwards, forwards, left, right, and look at whatever it is that you're trying to look at, e.g. in remote viewing, then that would make sense. So basically, your orb is asked in remote viewing, your orb, this is the way I see it, is asked in another orb to have a look at something for you. And then you get the image through the pineal gland, which is a transceiver and a receiver and a transmitter. And that's not me making that up. Go and actually Google it. You'll see that all of the people that's looked into pineal glands say yes, it literally can receive signals, which is really weird considering it's the centre of the brain, which is why you get the eye of Horus, the third eye, and all that kind of stuff. Will has wrote Black Ops 2. I prefer Modern Warfare myself, if that's what you're referring to. And then Quinoxes wrote, no, the Black Ops is secret organisation. I know a lot of people think it's a computer game. That's funny, isn't it, how literally the computer game tells us, hey, there's a thing called Black Ops, and people just assume it's a group of military people as opposed to a whole, secret thing. Sherry's wrote D. We're supposed to have a conduit that is our higher other self. It's just accessing it. Which is how you could. I mean, it's a fair point, Sherry, because there's people who say you can access the Akashic records, which is basically past, present, and future of your life. So if you can, going back to what I was saying about if your spirit can talk to another spirit and asked it to look somewhere, forwards, backwards, whatever, you could actually ask it to look at your life. Elaine's had to shoot off. Thank you very much, Elaine. Steffi's joined. Hello. Deekers wrote, didn't realise that they were not so old. I was misinformed. To do with the bones. Well, yeah, I mean, mainstream want us to believe that the dinosaurs died out 65 million years ago, but the evidence, literally evidence of human footprints crossing, literally foot crossing over a dinosaur footprint, and vice versa, and human footprints walking alongside dinosaur footprints in mud that's obviously now solidified, clearly shows that there was human interaction with dinosaurs at one point. And of course humans or Homo sapiens weren't around, or even hominids weren't around 65 million years ago. I mean, the closest we've got really is 1 or 2 million years for a hominid. So for us to have those human foot people have actually looked to see whether or not those feet are from modern humans. The footprints come from modern humans as opposed to chimpanzees or apes or anything else. So they match the gait and the foot and everything else matches the style that a human would walk with. So, and these are next to big freaking dinosaur footprints. So I don't think they died out 65 million years ago. And of course, why you got to ask yourself, why would mainstream want us to believe that if there's lots of evidence that there's dinosaurs carried on living longer? And that's probably because the Akambro figurines and the Ica stones show giant people, such as 8 to 12 foot tall, riding dinosaurs. And you think, well, who would be 8 to 12 foot tall riding a dinosaur? Anunnaki. But there's no such thing as Anunnaki. Well, maybe there is. If the dinosaurs were here and the people were carving images of them, riding them, if you're putting it into proportion, obviously you could say, well, maybe they were smaller dinosaurs, maybe they were baby dinosaurs. So you could argue that. But when you look at the Cambro figure, not the Cambros, the Ica stones, when you look at all of them, you actually see them. I don't want to be rude, but they actually are genetically creating something in a test tube. People, and when I say people, would be Anunnaki, because us people back then wouldn't have known how to. So go look up the Ica stones, 40 odd thousand of them. So take your time. But some of them have got Anunnaki on there doing things that, even the DNA trees on one of them, which is something that people wouldn't have had an idea of back then. So yeah, so I do think the dinosaurs were here, but I think the mainstream can't let us know, because then everything else falls into place, in my opinion. Dan has wrote, "You've been on live for hours." I know, I can't help it. I have to reply to every single question. That's just who I am, if I can. Ria's wrote, "As humans, what are the limits of our spiritual powers? Are we limited till after we die?" Excellent question. Excellent question. Go number one in the class for that. It's a really good question. So if you go by military whistleblowers that have been genetically modified by military personnel when they were in the womb, they end up with various abilities. Now, whether or not that concoction that they inject into them was alien or just chemicals or whatever, I don't know. They don't know either. But they do have like telepathy, various different other super soldiery, which is what the whole point of them doing this exercise is, super soldiery abilities. So have we got that as an innate ability? I don't know. It depends on what the mixture is, but certainly we can have that ability, as proven by these whistleblowers. Whether or not you believe them, I do. But yeah, so I think we can have more than what we've got. But I guess you could argue the same for any other creature. If we injected a creature that, then they may have the same abilities. So it might not just be a human thing. It may just be the tech that we use to enhance whatever it is. I mean, look at chameleons and things. They've got tech that we haven't got. Does it make them better than us? Can we use that? We probably can, and probably are with the military, using that kind of, they're not going to not study octopuses where they can, have the ability to change and mimic and stuff. So I think we could be evolved, certainly by chemicals and stuff like that, on our own spiritually. I think the closest we'll get is probably telepathy. If now that's to do with the pineal gland. Now, if you do your research, you'll see that we could have telepathy, and in fact, the pineal gland, because of the fluoride in the water, has actually crystallized it, which, according to, this is why I did that video, Everything You Need to Know About Spirits, because we struggle now to leave our body, we struggle to remember our past lives, which people that don't have fluoride in their water, and according to the Virginia study, can recall their past lives. So we are being dumbed down. I have to be careful what I say, because TikTok will probably kick me off. But yeah, so I think we could have more spiritual powers, but I think we're certainly being dumbed down. Deacon's wrote, "Where in the UK are you? Would be amazing to meet up and learn more." I'm near London, Londinium, as they used to call it. Not too far from there. Greater London, really, but yeah, probably half-hour drive to London. Jane has wrote, "Time check 9 p.m. Thank you, Jane, and thank you for sticking around for so long. Jay has wrote, Chris Hemsworth. Yeah, I know. I'm more like Tom Cruise, sorry. I'm joking. Shah has wrote, "How can you believe someone went to Mars but not believe Admiral Byrd's testimony?" So with the Corey Good, I think I remember saying, supposedly, or a word like that, because I'm very careful on what I say, because I don't 100% believe in Corey Good, but that's his version of it. And when you say, "But I do not believe in Admiral Byrd's testimony," watch my pinned video you'll see that I basically, you probably not watched his video, or if you have, you've probably watched someone else telling you what they want you to hear. I don't do that. So watch my pinned video with the picture of Admiral Byrd, then come back and say, well done, actually, you're a genius. And that'll be no problem at all. Because I break it down as it is. But people don't want to hear that. They want to hear what they want to hear. I can't do that. I have to tell you as it is properly. To do with the pole in the South Pole. Because a lot of people just say South Pole. No, there was a pole in the South Pole, which is what he talks about. But anyway, go watch it, you'll see, and then feel free to call me a genius. Scrolling on, some icons has wrote, what's happening at CERN Hadron Collider, alien stuff? I wouldn't say alien stuff. I'd certainly say physics stuff. Yeah, I don't know about the alien stuff. I mean, possible, obviously, side effects or whatever, but I can't imagine them doing that there. But you could be right. I mean, I don't know. I've heard a lot, but I've not heard anything per se with aliens as such in any form. Sean has wrote, have the Anunnaki got anything to do with the New World Order? That is a good question. Go number 2 in the class for that. I don't know the answer to that. So someone's in charge of our elites, I'm sure of it. From whistleblowers as well as the logic and everything else, and the fact that they worship, our elites worship some sort of Satan or serpent or whatever it is that they go and dress up and do these rituals. Billionaires, leaders of the world going dressing up and watching a ritual of someone getting bumped off. So they're doing that for a reason. Otherwise, they would have all gone to Starbucks and had a cup of coffee. So someone's in charge of them. Now, if it's the Anunnaki, I'm leaning towards a reptilian race like the Dracos, simply because of the worshipping of a serpent. But if the Anunnaki, the offspring of the Anunnaki was still here, demigods, whatever, set up the Vatican and then still ended up managing to be in control, would they want a new world order, one world order? Yeah, they probably would. Bearing in mind, they're the ones that actually, the Anunnaki were the ones that actually split us up with the Tower of Babel, long story, watch my videos, and gave us different languages. So would they want us? Probably not, maybe, because unless they limited the amount of people here. So one world order, but with less people, yes. One world order with 9 billion of us, no. But I would probably lean more towards a reptilian race. Jay has wrote, more like Nick Frost. I would have said Elephant Man, but okay, I'll go with Nick Frost, thank you very much. That's probably because my voice sounds like Nick Frost, apparently. Yorkshire's wrote, I always say we think in quantum entanglement, past, present and future at the same time. Yeah, that's what the spirits say. They don't have any concept of time there because they can go backwards and forwards. So, a lot of people say that everything's happening now. Or now. Okay, I'll shut up. Jay's right. I have remote viewing sometimes. Just when I close my eyes, is this common? Normally, for remote viewing, you would need a set of coordinates. So if you're seeing things, then it's more than likely out of body, I would have said. Yorkshire's wrote, it's like earth, air, fire and water, all energy tangled. Cherry's wrote, there's Akashic records and Akashic library. The records are your life, the library is everything. Yeah, sorry, I was just paraphrasing on, what you could do from what you were saying earlier. So, you could go and look up your life. And as you know, my pronunciations of things is terrible, so I could have been saying one or the other. Simon has wrote to Jay, I had 2. when I had so-called psychosis. Remote viewing telepathy. Simon then wrote, I was told telepathy we humans are both, which implied we're hybrids. Just scrolling down. Simons wrote, saw invisible people too, trying to camouflage in trees and bushes. We have both physical and astral body. See, I don't think we have it. I still think the orbs do, from everything I've ever read. Deekers wrote, I'm near Cambridge. I bought a house in Cambridge once, and it had a ghost in it, apparently. So I sold it the very next day. I didn't even stay there. We didn't even unpack. Long story. So yeah, so that's my claim to Cambridge. Ree has wrote, amazing answer, thank you. Got to start filtering my taps. If anyone's tapping, please, you don't have to. I just do this for my own fun. Thank you though. Lewis has wrote, is the fluoride in our water permanent? When we stop drinking the water, can it come back? Now there is ways of detoxing this pineal gland. So just Google, it tells you what to do. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but just type in detox pineal gland and you'll get the answer. But yeah, I mean, the fluoride in the water is not to help our teeth. I don't know why people still believe that they did that. The same governments that screw us over would, every chance they get, and they want to help us with our teeth. Back then, no, they needed somewhere to dump that fluoride. You know that there's a whole story to this. But that's another, that'll put you off drinking water for life. Scrolling down. Cherries wrote to Lewis, you can filter your water with activated charcoal. Truthers wrote, Galactic Federation is real. Be interested to know what makes you think that. I agree with you, but I'd like to know where you come from on that. Sorry to who's asked him to join. I'm going to be finishing soon. Purple Haze has wrote, why would you know? Question mark. I'm not sure what I was talking about when you wrote that. Sorry, you're only 2 messages behind, so if you could let me know. I'm almost caught up, so if you could let me know what I was talking about. Or was you talking to Truther Girl where she wrote Galactic Federation is real? Matthews wrote, Gov, thank you for your summary video series. Was it you that asked me? I can't remember the person that asked me. Someone asked me and I said I'd do it, and I am actually a man of my word. And when I say a man, I'm a cis man, which really winds me up, that fucking cis. I'm a man. I don't want to stick a cis in front of it. That makes me upset. But yeah, no, thank you. I'm glad you and hopefully liked it. Richard has wrote, why not say who they are? Those of us who are awake and knows, so call them out unless you're scared. Sorry, what are you referring to, Richard? Sorry. I'm not sorry. Thank you, Sherry. I was just reading your thing, but I'm sorry. Going back to Richard. Why not say who they are? You mean the elites? That's the main 13 families. You just type in 13 elite families and you'll find out. Those of us awake and knows, so call them out unless you're scared. Well, technically, if I name certain people, if it's to do with sort of the elites, I don't know what you're actually on about. Sorry. I'm scared in terms of, TikTok blocking my channel, because it'd be sad because I enjoy doing this. Not necessarily scared of military coming after me or black ops or anything. If they do, they do. There's not a lot I can do about it. But I'm having fun while I'm still here. Cherries wrote, "You did it. Thank you for the chat," because I'm at the bottom of the chat now. Thank you, Sherry. You've come up with some really good things today. Canada Jack has wrote, "Chemtrails, yes or no? If yes, why?" They're a way of continuing this depopulation thing that they're doing, basically. In my opinion, I might be wrong. Now, just from a logical point of view, has anyone been on the news and said, "Oh, we're doing chemtrails because it's all going to help us"? No. So when there's no news about something, you can guarantee it's not good for us. So, yeah. Sean has wrote, "Have you Googled Rain's List shocking?" Rain's List, I haven't. Don't know what that is, so I'd be interested. Jay has wrote, "I close my eyes and see different places and people. Is this remote viewing?" I mean, technically, the term remote viewing implies that they get a set of coordinates and then there's a control person and they give them the coordinates and then they remote view that because they're particularly not there, and that's why they're remote, and the view is obviously they can see it. You could say, yes, you are remote viewing, but you're not specifically choosing the location that you're looking at. Or, I mean, if you're not sleeping and you're only closing your eyes, then possibly. So it might be worth, if you think you've got that ability, might be worth asking someone to write down look into remote viewing, but ask someone to write down the longitude and latitude. They can even do it by professionals can even do it by date. So you could do longitude and latitude of London, for example, or a building in London, but 50 years ago. So they give them the date as well. So they can look back. And Major Ed Dames, I think he said that he's seen dinosaurs. He's gone that far back. And he's been on another planet as well, in remote viewing terms. So yeah, so possibly you look it up. Try and get a friend to help you one day, and because otherwise, if you're just closing your eyes, it could just be thoughts and memories of things you've seen in a film or something. But if you do it properly, and they, like Google Earth, get coordinates, so they know what they're looking at. It could be a tree, it could be a building, it could be a boat. And then they give you the coordinates and you close your eyes. And if you say, "Oh, I see a boat, tree, house, whatever," then at least you've got some validation that it's remote viewing. Otherwise, at this point, you could, it could be remote viewing, or it could just be a memory of some sort or an imagination. Cherries wrote to Richard, "Research the black nobility." Minders wrote, "The news equals today news shit," excuse my language, "is happening in the world." Yeah, I switch off the news. There's no point in watching it anymore. The biggest problems come from people overthinking. Oh, that's me. Sorry. Sherry's wrote, "Remote viewing has a purpose." Jay's wrote, "Yeah, it's random." CK City has wrote, "Apparently Walt Disney only has a decade left. Before that, they have to take him out of cryo." Well, I mean, if I think the technology's around for him to be cloned and stuff like that. Cloud Gazers wrote, "Do you think we can activate our dormant DNA through frequencies?" I wouldn't have said frequencies, no. From the experiments they've done on DNA, that you need to switch it on some way. I wouldn't have said a frequency would have done it. I might be wrong, but I just because of what they did with the chickens to turn the feathers into scales, they did something to the embryo, and it wasn't sound or anything. So it was obviously some injection to switch on that marker. So I wouldn't have said frequencies. I mean, it's possible, I guess, but you wouldn't. I mean, just thinking about frequencies now. We've got microwaves, we've got infrared, we've got all sorts of frequencies, as well as radio frequencies. And so far, no babies have come out looking like a dinosaur, or looking like a Neanderthal, or something else. So far, none of the frequencies that we've got seem to affect it, unless it needs to be bombarded directly at an early stage. It's possible because obviously when they're in the womb, there's only a split decision between X, Y, and X, Y, Y, or whatever it is. So maybe at that point is when the frequencies need to be done. But interesting, yeah. Not thought of that before. Jay is right. I never thought it might be different time wise, but no, it's things I have never seen before. Yeah, well, I mean, again, it could be, if good remote viewers can see in a different time. So definitely try and get a friend or someone you know to do a test with you. Otherwise, you'll just always wonder. I would, it's only take you 20, 30 minutes to do the whole thing. Get him to write down, him or her, they, it, to write down a series of coordinates, and then yeah, good luck. Let me know if you can do that. That'd be really cool. Zoom box is right. How do you get coordinates for another planet? Laugh out loud. Asked. It's a good question. I know you're probably making it sound like, but they do. I know. I thought the same thing when I heard Major Ed Dames talking about it. But just go look up remote viewing, and they will explain how they get the things. I hear you. It makes. I know you're thinking, well, and I thought the same thing, but there is a way they do it. So, but you can look that up. Okay, well, I've got to the end of the. Oh, bloody hell, 9:30. I've got to the end of the chat. So I will say thank you to everyone that's joined and everyone that continued to listen, and even those that disappeared. So on that bombshell, I will let you all go and do something far more interesting than listening to me. And thank you everyone for everything. Thank you for the likes. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And take care, everyone. Bye, Sherry. Bye, Lewis. Bye, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, and Happy New Year to you too, Jane. Thank you. Thank you, Truthful Girl. Thank you. Bye. Bye, everybody.